over on John Eng's side, and his Snorlax, which is a great attacker for him. I will say, though, it is at the bottom of the prizes, so he is likely to draw it at some point. Over on Tord's side, did prize a Cramorant, does play a couple copies of the card, though, so won't be too big of a deal. That one Colress's Experiment could be a little annoying, but really not too bad over on Tord's end.
Yeah, definitely not something that's super crucial. Could come into play there for John. Definitely with those boss's orders, though, we'll have to keep a lookout for that. And I'm sure it's going to be noticed very recently for John too. And here we go. We had the fist bump for our players, and we're getting into our top 8 match.
And it does look like Tord will be going first. And I do believe that most likely means that John Eng won the coin flip and chose to go second. Going second in this matchup is so good because of how easy it is to attack on the first turn going second with Cramorant. Of course, provided you can get the necessary 4 cards in the Lost Zone. But when you're going second, it's really not too hard with the power of Comfey and Colress's Experiment.
Yeah, most definitely. If anyone is unfamiliar, Lost Provisions, if you have 4 or more cards in the Lost Zone, ignore the energy cost. So Cramorant essentially gets to attack for free pretty much, doing 110 damage at that. So not anything to blink at, that is for sure. All right, so Tord already starting off with that Comfey scoop up net into the other Comfey as well. So already putting a couple, at least 1 card so far, and then now here's 2 into the Lost Zone, a Sableye and a Psychic Energy as well. And then that second Comfey that was scooped out before is hitting the bench again. Another Comfey scooping up out of the active. This is what we're going to see a lot with this Comfey engine. And we're going to see another flower selecting here from Tord. So flower selecting, of course, you draw 2, you keep 1, and you have to Lost Zone the other.
Yep, and it's already going to be a tough choice here. Lost Vacuum and the Air Balloon. Lost Vacuum going to the Lost Zone, though. Not too bad to lose, though it is a nice way to help fuel your Lost Zone count so that you can get to Sableye as quickly as possible. And that's really what Tord is going to be trying to do here. Get as many cards in the Lost Zone on turn 1 as he can so that he can get to that 10 cards on turn 2 and start really applying the pressure with that Lost Mine.
I mean, Tord is going for it. That is now the 4th flower selecting we've seen in this turn so far. So getting access to so many cards, keeping that Battle VIP pass and Lost Zoning a Comfey there. Battle VIP pass, of course, so essential. Tord is going first here, so allowing him to search out 2 basic Pokemon and bench them straight away.
Yep, at 4 cards in the Lost Zone now. So he's ramping up. Cramorant would be online, of course, but he cannot attack here on his first turn. He's just really trying to dump as many as he possibly can and wants to advance his board state as much as possible. Battle VIP pass being played here is excellent, and we'll see if it maybe fetches another Comfey. Of course, one did hit the Lost Zone. Looks like he's got that 4th copy in deck, though.
Yeah, most definitely. And this is going to be a close matchup. Do you think anybody in this match is slightly favored or unfavored, Chip?
It really, I think, favors the person who can take the first KO.
I was afraid you were going to say that, Chip.
It really favors that person. And that's not to say that whoever takes the first knockout wins, without a doubt.
That's true.
There's definitely a lot of work to be done from there. But for example, if John is the first one to take the KO, he'll be putting Tord on the back foot right away, really forcing him to kind of come up with an answer as fast as possible. But Tord has some play with cards like Sableye, where he can spread damage. He has the ability of the Radiant Charizard in the late game, which could take a key knockout on a Giratina Vstar if John ends up attacking with one. And that is actually something I'm really going to be interested to see. Is John going to try to operate this game without using his V-Star Pokemon? Will he go in just with all of the various one-prizers that he plays, or will he try to make one big V-Star to close things out?
Well, you have to imagine that John has run a lot of games against this Lost Box, because this was a pretty heavily anticipated deck coming into this tournament. So I assume that we are going to see some sort of strategy here from John that is pretty well thought out, especially potentially having played this throughout day 1 and day 2. All right, so on Tord's side, we did see those 2 Pokemon hit the bench from the Battle VIP pass, of course, one of them being the Comfey, and this is going to be our 5th flower selecting here, Chip, in our first turn for Tord. It's hard to imagine that this is still the first turn.
He's going to lose the Oranguru here, one of his favorite Pokemon, but really needs to value hanging on to the Manaphy, because Radiant Greninja on John's side can become a big threat. That's a way that John could get back into this game if Tord was ever to take the first KO, is to take multiple prizes with Radiant Greninja, doing 90 damage to 2 Pokemon. So that wave availability of Manaphy will protect these bench Pokemon from that onslaught of Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, and we do forget sometimes that Tord is playing that Radiant Charizard, and it's in hand with the Fire Energy as well. And it looks like choosing to bench it now with the Fire Energy attached.
Yeah, just go ahead and get it out of the hand. This means that once John goes to 3 prize cards, Tord can threaten a 250 damage attack. So I think it does make some sense.
Yeah,
and yeah,
look at that board state. First turn set up for Tord
without playing a supporter as well, right?
No supporter, fully loaded bench here. 5 cards in the Lost Zone already, and it is switched over to John here to kind of catch up on this turn 1. So starting off with the concealed cards from that Radiant Greninja on the bench, drawing 2 cards here. Battle VIP Pass being one of them.
Yep. Exactly what John wants to see, and has a bunch of scoop up net in hand. I feel like it's pretty likely this turn is going to end with John attacking with Cramorant.
Oh yeah, that is definitely something we could see, which would be the ideal situation. But of course, definitely having to think out all of these turns.
Absolutely.
Definitely kind of debating what to do here. Of course, we are definitely going to see that Battle VIP Pass. Otherwise, you know, why would you keep it in hand if it's your first turn and you can use it, you know?
Yep.
But here we go, yeah, deciding what to bring out with that Battle VIP Pass. Of course, 2 basic Pokemon here from John. Also searching through the deck, making sure to familiarize the prize cards as well. Seeing probably now that 2 Boss's Orders are in the prize cards if John is searching for it. You know, I feel like players oftentimes have key cards that they look for on their initial search because you only have so much time. So if that is a key card, that is potentially known now from John.
Yeah, Boss is usually a card you want to be checking for. It's not really the most impactful in this matchup unless you're really wanting to go for a strategy where you KO Manaphy and then set up a Radiant Greninja play, which is something John probably will have in the back of his mind. And this is something you'll see from the best players in the game. They kind of have just a bunch of different options available to them. Keep themselves with all kinds of choices available so that there's many different routes to them coming out as the victor in a game. So one possible route does involve Boss's Orders KO and Manaphy at some point in this game.
Yeah, so seeing that those 2 Boss's Orders are prized is definitely essential there for sure. Okay, so here we go, grabbing those 2 Pokemon off of the Battle VIP Pass for John and just shuffling afterward as well. Again, trying to line up the turns here for that Cramorant to pop off on John's first turn here. So definitely gonna see some flower selecting from these Comfies.
The flowers will be selected. Very, very shortly, starting off with number 1. And we're looking to get to 4 cards in the Lost Zone here. He would love to find a Culver's Experiment. And Giratina Vstar hits the Lost Zone as the very first choice.
Opting for the Mirage Gate instead, definitely a choice there. All right, so we see the first scoop up net, very similar to how we kind of saw Tord's deck playing out as well, using the coins to signify these abilities being used. And we're going to see a Grass Energy go into the Lost Zone.
And a Culver's Experiment was the card kept,
That's great.
Which is the exact card John wanted to see. Now he will draw into 5 cards, gets to keep 3 of them in Lost Zone 2. So that means he'll hit that threshold of 4. Let's hope that the discard choices aren't too impactful. Drapion can be a pretty easy choice. John immediately hanging on to that Sableye, which he does play a copy of as a tech himself. That is certainly something that could come up alongside the Galarian Zigzagoon. So there we could see some plays later from John involving Sableye, Galarian Zigzagoon, pinging a bunch of Comfies to take multi-prizes in a turn.
Yeah, there is only 1 in deck, so that is definitely a easy keep there. All right, so we're going to see that second scoop up net into the Comfy that was scooped up before.
Yes. Once a Pokemon comes to the hand, even though flower selecting says once during your turn, when it comes to your hand, that means it's pretty much a new Pokemon. So
exactly.
Into the flower selecting, he does find the Galarian Zigzagoon and chooses to keep it. Wants to keep that play in his back pocket potentially.
Comfies are not getting too comfy there on the board, Steve. Chip, you got to tell me to stop making this joke.
We'll let it slide this time, Boo.
All right, there we go. So we did see that flower selecting and the second Comfy that was scooped up earlier back onto the bench as well.
Debating using the Lost Vacuum, it would just get rid of that air balloon from Tord. It could be a little risky because it is boosting another card to Tord's Lost Zone, but at the same time adding 1 more to John's. So Yeah, I mean, I guess it's fine. And it's interesting as well. We will need to note that John has gotten rid of 2 pieces
Yeah,
of
the
Giratina
Giratina.
Vstar. So that really tells me that even though it is kind of the main function of his deck, attacking with Giratina Vstar, in this matchup, he's going to be leaning on the backs of these one prize Pokemon.
Yeah, it's going to be one prizers versus one prizers potentially here, which I guess is sometimes what you want to see. But here we go. That Cramorant is on the line here now for John with 6 cards in the lost zone. Of course, Cramorant only needing 4 to do that spit innocently for 110 damage and going to be able to take the first knockout of this game.
It might be innocent, but that's definitely rude. Taking out the Comfy, spit right there, and now up to Tord to try to find the response. At 6 cards in the lost zone, if he can find a way to get 4 cards, we could see an attack with Sableye this turn.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be very technical on both of these players' parts. A lot of micro decisions being made, as Tord kind of noted at before, but starting off with a flower selecting as well. Did you see those 2 cards, Chip?
Looks like it was a Path to the Peak and a Cross Switcher, so I think Path is probably a... whoa, interesting.
Ooh,
Actually going to keep it. So maybe Tord wanting to disrupt the Radiant Greninja over on
draw.
John's side. I was definitely expecting that he was going to keep Cross Switcher there. I'm a little surprised. That
Tord keeping us on our feet here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we are going to see a switch cart now into that Comfy on the bench as well to activate another flower selecting ability.
And maybe what that was is that to Tord, it's not going to be super important to have access to gusting. His main strategy is going to be spreading damage, it feels like. So doesn't really care about having access to cross switcher. So
more powerful to cut off your opponent. Yeah. I see. All right, so jumping into a Marnie here, activated by Tord. So Tord's going to be drawing 5 cards after putting the hand to the bottom of the deck, as well as John drawing 4. Lost Zone is at 7 cards now as well for Tord.
Yep. He is not playing the Mirage Gate, though, so, I mean, his number is really getting to that 10, and that's going to be the difficult part, and it doesn't look like it's going to be hard for him to do it. He's going to have to use 3 Comfies as he's not able to use Colress now that Marnie has been played for turn. He's bringing up Sableye. He did already attach to Comfy as well, so he actually won't be able to attack with Sableye. There's no, like, energy switch or anything like that in this deck, and Charizard is very far from being able to attack, especially with that path to the peak.
I was about to say, with the path to the
peak.
Yeah, that is definitely shutting that down real quick, but we are seeing a Fog Crystal to search out that Sableye, of course, a basic Psychic Pokemon or basic Psychic Energy, and then a second Fog Crystal here going for the Energy.
It's actually pretty interesting that Tord has put this path in play. Oh, what he's trying to do, I get it. Okay, he's hoping to find Lost Vacuum. That's what it is. He wants to Lost Vacuum the path, put that in the Lost Zone, and then he will also ditch another card. And that would get him to 10 this turn. The problem with that, though, is he has already attached. So, I mean,
true.
It's a play that's available to him maybe a little later on that'll boost that. But, you know, it's available.
Yeah, I guess you might as well play it, seeing more value in that than the cross switcher, I suppose, as you said, Chip. So here we go. Another flower selecting ability off of that active Comfy into 2 more cards, of course, having to make that difficult decision of which to keep and which to lost zone into a lost zone of then 8 cards.
And I think the choices were Marnie and the second copy of Manaphy. That's right, Tord is playing 2 copies of Manaphy just because of how good Radiant Greninja can be against this deck. And it will choose to ditch a Manaphy here, bringing that Lost Zone count up to 8. Really didn't want to get rid of a supporter card, I suppose.
Yeah, most definitely. I don't see any Ordinary Rod in the list or anything like that either for any sort of other discards of Pokemon that do go to the discard pile. Of course, can't take anything out of our Lost Zone there, but Tord does play Clara in this deck, 2 copies of it that would be able to search out energy and Pokemon out of the discard pile if needed down the line.
Well, Tord's Cramorant is going to come up and take after John's on turn 1, taking this KO, tying the game up. And what Tord is probably hoping off of the Marnie here is that John is just going to stumble a little bit. This path to the peak is in play. Radiant Greninja cannot be used with concealed cards to see more options. And John has already used Lost Vacuum as well, so that's 1 less out in order to get out of this spot. Quick Ball and the Comfy here. Tough call.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that was pretty strategic here from Tora playing that Path to the Peak, because we could see a little bit of stutter here from John because of it. Like you said, Chip, if we don't see what is needed off these flower selecting abilities, there is that much less of draw support. You know, oftentimes I think people might forget Radiant Greninja is a rule box Pokemon. So yeah, that Path to Peak just shutting it down right now, and John having to make a difficult decision right now off of that first flower selecting between the Quick Ball or the Comfey.
This will be the 7th card in John's Lost Zone, so now Mirage Gate will be active for him. And he's really mulling over this between a Quick Ball and the Comfey. The Comfey does inevitably hit that Lost Zone. And John's hand is a little awkward, maybe looking for a little bit more help here. One more flower selecting to aid him.
Yeah, let's hope that's what it does, Chip.
Yes.
You never know with these flower selectings.
Ooh.
Looks like, is that a Roxanne and an ordinary rod?
Indeed.
All right, so another difficult decision, as we can see John again having to figure out, okay, what is more impactful in my strategies here? Because those are actually two kind of later game cards, I guess you see, and that's a tough decision to make.
And that's what makes this deck so difficult to play, is that you have to, on turn 2, make a decision that is going to impact how you play the game on turn 6.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And that is what makes it so hard, and John will end up losing the ordinary rod here. Wants to value the disruption potential of the Roxanne.
Yep, so Lost Zone now at 8 here. Quick balling a water energy out to search out a basic Pokemon here. Grabbing another Cramorant. That's going to be the attacker that we see from John. Cramorant versus Cramorant here, Chip.
Just streaming
spitting
these
at each other.
Spitting at each other across the table.
The disrespect.
I know, truly, truly. So as long as John has another switching card in hand, he'll be able to get into this Cramorant. He'll go back into the lead on the prize race. Doesn't have any Mirage Gates or anything like that. I think at some point he would like to, well, I guess he can't bring up the Manaphy, right? Let's not forget those two bosses are in the discard, or in the prize cards. If he can take one, it would be nice, and they do both still remain.
Yep, they are both in there in kind of awkward positions in the prize cards, so hopefully later down the line, John will get access to those. But yeah, taking that knockout, so 2 prize cards down for John now. Back over on Tord's side, deciding what to promote here. This is a very articulate matchup here. Of course, I don't think we mentioned it, Chip, but there is an increased timer in our top 8 matches as well. So as you can see now, there's still 57 minutes left on the clock, so plenty of time for these players to really work through these difficult decisions.
Yep, in top cut, players get 75 total minutes plus 3 turns, similarly to what they receive in Swiss. So the extended time will ensure that it's less likely a game to, have to go into the single elimination rules for time plus 3 turns, unless we do get to that 75 minutes eventually.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, so here we go. On Tord's side, we're going to see that Colress's Experiment having to keep 3 cards and Lost Zone 2 off of the top 5 of the deck. So it looks like decision might already have been made here, but just finalizing it for sure. Ooh. Opting for the 2 being the Path to the Peak, and of course the Battle VIP Pass, easy one for the Lost Zone. So that takes Tord up to that 10, that lucky number 10 here to activate that powerful Sableye, and that lost mine.
Yes, we'll start to maybe spread some damage, and this could be a path for Tord, try to find a way to take multiple prizes in a single turn. Starting now with a flower selecting, getting to look at 2 cards. The fact of the matter here is, though, if this game just continues and John's able to stream attackers together turn after turn after turn, eventually he would come out the victor. So Tord has to find a way to disrupt that, either through another Marnie, which we know he has access to in the deck. He took it last turn. So at some point he needs to play that card. At some point he needs to sneak in a multi-prize turn potentially, or just try to mess with John in some way and hope that John can maybe miss an attack. We'll see what he tries to piece together. And he does Lost Zone and Energy here. Looks like keeping the Sableye. That is a tough choice off of flower selecting between Sableye and the Energy. So tough.
Yeah, none of these decisions have been easy unless it's a battle VIP that pops up. And earlier we saw 2 battle VIPs in a different game, so that's an easy one. But none of these have been easy in this match so far. All right, we're going to see a scoop up net on that Comfey that's in the active. I believe that's now 3 scoop up nets played by Tord down into the discard pile.
Yep, 3 down, only 1 left for a pivoting option. Tord does play a bunch of switching cards, though. In addition to that, of course, the
most of these decks do.
Yes, the escape ropes, the switching cards in Tord's list, the regular switch in John's list. So plenty of ways to maneuver your Pokemon around the field. We do see a couple copies of the Lost Vacuum in hand. So Tord wanting to leave this past the peak in play, I would imagine, up until the turn he wants to use Radiant Charizard. Try to force John to find a replacement stadium and reactivate his Radiant Greninja. Up until then, Tord is happy to turn off that powerful Concealed Cards ability.
I guess there is the option to bump the air balloon off of John's Comfey potentially as well, which would add to that disruption from John, but of course also adds another card to the Lost Zone for John too. But already getting to that 7 and unlocking the Mirage Gate and not playing the Giratina, I mean, John does play a Sableye, a single copy as well, so getting more cards in there would be able to activate that. But yeah, if that air balloon goes down, that's just more disruption there.
Okay, so Tord will take the KO on that Comfey and set up 4 damage counters onto the other Comfey, 1 onto the Radiant Greninja, setting up so that either of these Pokemon could be KO'd. That is, unless John could find a scoop up net to potentially heal one of them completely.
And we're going to see if that is found off of this Colress's experiment, able to keep 3 cards and Lost Zone 2. Let's see. What do we got? Oh, I did not see one.
A couple energies. Does have that Training Court. That could be a nice card to grab. But it's a tough call as what to get rid of. Losing the Lumineon is a way that you can maybe get out of some disruption from Tord in the later game. So it's a tough card to lose, but you might be okay losing it. I feel like Training Court is probably something you need to keep.
Yeah.
And John seems to agree. It's maybe a decision here between, man, I mean, it's so tough. It really is. We keep saying it, but this deck is tough to play because you just have to do so much planning. Resource management is at an all-time high when you're playing this deck.
I mean, that just emphasizes the skill level of both these players that have made it to this point so far into the top 8. I mean, this is huge right now. All of these micro decisions that they have to make, and them having succeeded this far with this super difficult deck.
Yes, absolutely. So John, I think these 3 cards are the ones he's going to keep one of and have to Lost Zone 2. So it looks like Training Court will be kept, and the Lumineon and Switch do go down.
Going down there for John. So keeping those other 3 cards there, of course, like Chip said, that Training Court is now in hand. There's an Ultra Ball as well for John in hand. A ton of energy cards, looking through Tord's Lost Zone right now to see what is in there. Tord also taking a look at that.
So even though John has lost his boss's orders to the prize cards, there is a way that he could KO the Manaphy, and it would involve him using his Sableye in order to pick up a KO there. The risk of that is it makes it very easy for Tord to just play down a Clara, bring it back, so might not be really what John wants to go for. Maybe just try to spread some damage. If he can pull off a play with Galarian Zigzagoon at some point, that would be really, really strong alongside some scoop-up nets. But
yeah, I'm not sure if Tord, of course, these players ID'd before, so they haven't played each other, at least from what I'm aware of.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I don't know if we've actually seen the Sableye for John come out with a quick ball or anything like that. So Tord might not even know that John plays it.
Yeah, Tord might not have that knowledge. We see it's in the list because John did hit it in his hand earlier, but you're right. It didn't get revealed to Tord.
Exactly.
And Snorlax is going to make an impact here, it seems.
Look at that artwork.
To be a Snorlax.
To be a Snorlax napping on a plank of wood there. But yeah, no, Snorlax is definitely a great card in these decks. Just an alternate attacker doing quite a lot of damage as well if you can get those energies. And of course, unlike Tord's deck, John does have that Mirage Gate that is unlocked. It was unlocked at 7 cards in Lost Zone, and John's at 10. but still being able to free attack here with that Cramorant, taking another knockdown and grabbing that boss's orders off of the prize cards, going down to 3 prize cards left for John, and it is up to Tor now to decide who to promote in this position. Definitely a difficult choice.
Definitely a tough call here.
Comfy's coming up.
Comfy's coming up,
At
but
some point.
he's probably just mapping out the rest of what he's got. I mean, we do know he's down a lot of switching cards, so, I mean, if he doesn't have access to moving the Comfy, maybe Sableye just has to come up to keep swinging the prize cards.
Yeah, that is definitely true. So this is, I guess, a difficult choice here for Tord now, but looking like opting to go with the Comfy into the active after that knockout by John, starting off here, drawing for turn, drawing into a cross switcher. One was already put into the Lost Zone for Tord. There is 4 in deck.
Flower selecting, seeing the top 2, Fog Crystal and a Fire Energy. You really only need 1 Fire Energy to attack with the Charizard, so it's an okay card to lose. It depends on if Tord needs to grab a Psychic Energy out of the deck, and it doesn't look like he does. There are 2 in the Lost Zone, or 2 in the discard pile, 1 in the Lost Zone, so maybe he already has access to another. Maybe just wants to hang on to this Fire as well to try to make sure he has access to it through Charizard.
Yeah, most definitely, and it looks like that Fog Crystal is going to hit the Lost Zone there. So here we go. So many cards in hand for both these players.
Yes, and this is really what happens with these decks. You go flower selecting, Colress, and you're just adding cards to your hand.
Yeah, definitely. Both of these cards just stacking here, stacking giant hands. We are going to see an Escape Rope that is discarded. Was that off of the...
I think that was...
Oh, it's being used. I think John's just deciding who to promote here.
Yeah.
Of course, like we said this entire time. Difficult decisions being made. So Escape Rope, John deciding to promote maybe the Snorlax? Taking it back here? There we go. Promoting the Snorlax, going with it. It does have a water energy attached to it. But yeah, promoting that up here. Now Tord has to decide who to promote afterward, and it looks like it is going to be this Sableye.
He does have the Clara in hand, so that can fetch back the Psychic Energy to fire off a Lost Mine this turn, and he's set up to be able to either knock out the Radiant Greninja or could knock out the Comfy and spread some damage elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely huge. Like I said before, there's 2 Claras in deck, so this is the first one that we've seen so far.
The thing for Tord is that it's actually really difficult to deal with this Snorlax until John has taken enough prize cards to where Charizard is activated, because Snorlax's unfazed fat ability means it cannot be affected by effects of opponents' attacks. And of course, placing damage counters, which is what Sableye does, is an effect of an attack. So Tord could theoretically target Snorlax and say, yeah, I want to put all 12 damage counters here, but then it would get fizzled out because unfazed fat would deny that option.
Yeah, that is definitely a good point to make there, Chip. So we are going to see the manual attached for turn here onto that Sableye, of course, to make sure that Lost Mine can pop off this turn here and place those 12 damage counters on the board. Save for John, of course, not going to be placed on that Snorlax here. So we'll see what the decisions are from Tord with those damage counters. Tons of options in hand still.
I feel like knocking out John's only Comfy in play seems pretty solid. Take that option away so John can't just switch into it or Escape Rope and send it up,
Radiant Greninja is still locked from that Path to the Peak as well. So really just disrupting John pretty heavily here with that play for sure.
And then could set up for an easier knockout later on, potentially on the Cramorant, spreading damage with multiple Sableyes in future turns. Tord, though, here is still behind. He's 4-3 prizes right now. He'll tie things up here. Ooh, is actually going to take out the Cramorant, put just 1 on the Comfy. Wants to make it as hard as possible for John to attack here. Maybe calling the bluff here from John. Sending up the Snorlax almost says, hey, I've got a Mirage Gate in hand. I can pretty easily attack. Actually, I don't think John does have the Mirage Gate.
Wow, that is very true. And look at that retreat cost on that Snorlax too. That is a beefy Snorlax in the active as well. And with no Mirage Gate, it could just be stuck up there in the active with that 4 retreats. I think is that a...
He's got a rope.
Is that a rope?
Yeah, has a rope. Also has Ordinary Rod here, which I think is what he's debating playing
there we go.
first. but it will be, I think, the escape rope before anything else.
Right, of course.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, difficult decisions here by both players, but escape rope is going to come down. Of course, Tord has to decide who to promote first before John gets that decision on his end as well. So let's see what Tord decides to do. Again, so many decisions to be made here, Chip, and difficult ones at that. So
Yes.
Tord going into the Radiant Charizard is what it looks like.
Mm,
Oh, maybe not, maybe not.
About it. It does have the most hit points, though pretty much everything that John could throw at it would be able to still knock it out. Snorlax knocks it out. Cramorant even knocks it out thanks to the water weakness.
True. That is definitely a good point there. So going into the Comfey instead, we're going to see now the Ordinary Rod, as we noted before from John. So searching out Pokemon and
double Cramorant.
Energy to shuffle back into the deck. Yeah, 2 Cramorants going back into the deck, as well as a Psychic Energy and a Water Energy.
So John just needs to attack 3 more times, once of each of these next turns, and Tord needs to not take a multi-prize turn. As long as those things remain true. Oh, and this is huge. Tord's decision to take a prize last turn means that Roxanne has been activated, and this is the only Comfey in play for Tord, the one in the active spot. So if John can find a Mirage Gate and take a knockout with Snorlax, Tord's going to have 2 cards with no flower selecting available.
Yeah, that is definitely huge here. This is going to be giant for what these players draw, what cards they draw off the top. Of course, John being able to draw 6 and Tord only 2 from that Roxanne. So definitely huge. Let's see what the cards are for both these players. Oh, I think it was a Colress is in Tord's hands.
Okay, so Tord will have an out here. John looks like he got into the scoop of net. I do not see the Mirage Gate, though.
No, I don't either. This is close.
I don't think he's used flower selecting. I don't think he used it before the Roxanne. So
no, there would be a coin, I think,
really
Chip.
could come down to if he finds the Mirage Gate here off this flower selecting. Otherwise, he might miss an attack, which would be the window Tord needed to get back in this. And he doesn't find one.
Oh, yep. That is difficult
He
to
needed
see.
to find Cramorant or Mirage Gate, and he found neither of them off of 8 cards effectively.
Oh my goodness. That is very true with both those cards. So just sending that water energy into the Lost Zone and keeping the other card to hand here.
Does have another Comfey, though, so he can look once more. Has the Retreat available, get rid of the Comfey in the active. Is actually going to
just
scoop up net.
Okay.
I think wants to heal that damage, probably.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that is definitely big as well. Healing that damage is huge. All right, so we're going to see another flower selecting. What are the 2 cards?
It's a water energy and something else.
Another water energy?
Oh, and we don't know. It was just, I see the water energy hit the Lost Zone. It looks like it was
the
Cramorant. But now, oh, John could use the escape rope here. Okay, so he can still get a KO this turn with the Cramorant. So he's at least found the pieces to take a prize now because escape rope is in hand.
Yeah, much better position to be in. Definitely having a an attacker. You know, John having shuffled 2 Cramorants back into the deck and now finally drawing into one off of 2 flower selects. So we're going to see this escape rope Tord choosing first who to promote here from the bench.
And does choose to send up the Radiant Charizard, even though John will be going to just 2 prizes remaining. That path to the peak in play, which I'm sure John is not planning to bump.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, Spit Innocently is not affected by weakness. How could I forget? Yeah, even though Charizard is weak to water, Cramorant doesn't care about that. Just dealing the 110, not able to take it out.
I guess it couldn't be as good as we thought it was, Chip. There are some weaknesses, I guess, but definitely not one being recognized. Yeah, I was about to say not being recognized here. So Tord working with a Colress's experiment now, looking at those 5 top cards, of course. 3 going to the hand and 2 to the Lost Zone. Let's see what we have. I think there's an escape rope in there, a Lost Vacuum. Looks like a Fire Energy.
Yep, energy is available.
A Scoop Up Net, Fog Crystal.
Okay.
So
this is the opening Tord was hoping for. It is definitely a massive one here. Let's see what he can piece together. Will he be able to get an attack off? He's at least got the way to move the Charizard from the active and can use Lost Mine this turn, taking at least a prize.
Yeah, this is a scary position to be in for either of these players. Tied up now, 3 prize cards each. Still 41 minutes left on our clock here. So we've been running down some time here, but we still have a lot of time left for both these players to finish out some games. So tied up.
A ton of cards in both of these players' lost zone, already at 12 apiece.
Can you imagine that 12 of your cards in deck are just gone forever, Chip?
It's pretty wild how this deck functions, but it's what it needs to do in order to make it work.
All right, and 2 more going into the lost zone. It was going to be that lost vacuum and the escape rope as well.
Something interesting here as well, Tord has the switching cart in hand, so he could switch the Charizard to the bench and also at the same time heal it. So that makes it a little more annoying for John to make any sort of Sableye play.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That is a card that's a good tech and fits pretty well in this deck because you're playing a lot of basic Pokemon. So.
I mean, and that math really matters because
it does.
Right now the Charizard has 50 HP and Manaphy and Comfey both have 70, so 50 plus 70, that's 120, which is what the Sableye is able to spread. So healing that 30 damage is going to be massive here if that's what Tord is going to go for. And this really could be a situation of, does Tord know about the Sableye that John plays? So
oh, yeah, true, because
I guess his only way to move it is the switching cart, though, it looks like, and the scoop up net. So either way, this damage will get healed.
The escape rope was put into the lost zone anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Also, Tord just potentially not, I guess, preparing for the worst. Oh, just going to scoop up net actually here on that Radiant Zard, get rid of all the damage chips. So that is completely gone off of the board. Of course, that energy having to be discarded from the scoop up net that was on the Radiant Zard. I believe it had energy on it,
It did, yes. It got discarded.
Okay, cool. So it's
that's
in the
another
discard
fire
pile.
energy already in his
Yeah,
hand.
I was like, wait, what? Okay, we're good. So 2 Sableye set up now here, of course, with the single Psychic Energy. That's all they need, Chip, to, well, that's all they need plus the 10 cards in the Lost Zone. So there's definitely some gives and takes here, but that is a very low energy cost for it to have, and 2 of them are now established on Tord's field.
And if Tord KOs the Comfey here, John's options are going to be pretty limited, and it seems like a pretty easy choice. Get rid of that 70 damage there. He's got 3 more damage counters to play with.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of decisions to be made, but that Comfey is going down.
Cannot put the damage on the Snorlax. It has to go to either Cramorant or Greninja. So it looks like 3 or 5 actually going on to, 5 going on to
Comfey 70.
Cramorant.
Yep, Cram gets 5 damage counters here, of course, equaling to 50 damage.
So I think John's play this turn has to be Sableye plus Zigzagoon plus Scoop Up Net in order to knock out Manaphy and Comfey. Take 2 prize cards this turn.
That'd be huge.
Yes, I think he needs that combination of cards. And Mirage Gate as well is a decent way to set up this Snorlax to take your potential last prize card. Cramorant also would work to close out the game. He's got the Zigzagoon in hand and drew the Scoop Up Net. I don't think he's got the Psychic Energy or the Sableye just yet, though.
Yeah, making the decision of what to send to the Lost Zone off of that Colress's Experiment right now for John. Tord taking a look at that Lost Zone, and then the 2 cards going to there are going to be a Cramorant and a Mirage Gate as well. Of course, I think there was 2 Mirage Gate in those options, so 1 going to John's hand here, Scoop Up Net in hand, the Goons in hand, Mirage Gate being activated here to search out those 2 energy cards and apply them to the board.
Yeah, going with the Mirage Gate before going with the Sableye, so I guess he's maybe saving Sableye for next turn. That might be what he's eyeing up. I do believe Tord is down all 4 copies of Scoop Up Net, so Manaphy and Comfey will both be in play. So he's just going to make maybe a big push on this final turn to take 2 prizes at once.
Yeah, and that would be quite the shocker, too. It's always interesting to see those plays and to see that knowledge be revealed last second for a huge turn.
Sure.
That's kind of when you have to do it, too.
Was not able to play, get down another Comfey here, use that Flower Selecting to get through the deck a little bit more.
Yep, definitely. So shuffling up here, those energies put onto that Snorlax on the bench here from the Mirage Gate. Of course, having to be 2 different types of energy cards, but so a whole array of those energies on the Snorlax.
So let's see if John is just going to attack with this Cramorant in the active, take this KO. Could get the damage out of play and just attack with the Snorlax. He does have the Scoop Up Net in hand, but like I said, he may need that Scoop Up Net in order to use the Zigzagoon on the next turn to close out the game. I don't know how many nets there are available. I think there's at least 2 in the discard pile, 1 in hand. Where is the 4th copy is the big question, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. And Tord doesn't play any Rock Sands in the deck either, so that is not going to be an option here from Tord if anyone was thinking about it. It is not in the deck. No room for it, I suppose.
Nope.
All right, here we go. Snorlax is in the active position. All of those energies attached to it needed to do that thumping snore for 180 damage. Plenty of damage.
Yep, plenty of damage, and the only thing in Tord's deck that can deal with Snorlax is the Radiant Charizard. So we know Tord has that back in the hand from the Scoop Up Net. Fire Energy did go to the discard pile, so maybe John just hoping that Tord won't be able to find the fire to deal with this, or maybe Tord's going to just go for the Lost Mine onto the Greninja. Looks like Snorlax will stay asleep, will take this KO. John goes to 2. Tord now at 2. Tord is now the person in the driver's seat of this one.
Yeah, most definitely. That Snorlax sleeping on the plank of wood there. Still,
I believe it's
John.
a bridge.
Is it really?
Yeah, right over a little river, you know.
Thanks for letting me know. What? Oh yeah, because he's blocking it. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That's so good.
Ooh, what a good top deck there from Tord as well. Finding the air balloon, sends up the Comfy, gets rewarded right away. Will be able to pivot out. Gets to look at 2 Lost Zone 1.
Yep. Most definitely. I think it was was that another Colress too?
It was.
I feel like Tord has had to make so many Colress potential sacrifices in this game so far.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a Comfy. So Comfy being sent to the Lost Zone, and that Colress being favored over it. That Battle VIP pass has been in the hand for Tord for so long too.
Still a decent amount of cards in hand there for Tord, or in deck, I should say, for Tord. So he wants to thin out a little bit, add some more to the hand, and maybe Lost Zone just a couple more.
Yep, and we are going to see some of that thinning right now. 5 being selected, 2 having to go into the Lost Zone, and 3 to the hand. 2 of them, 2 of the options being switch carts. Comfy's there as well. Looks like a switch cart and a Comfy potentially hitting the Lost Zone there. For Tord, it's going to be the decision made. Again, those switch carts maybe coming into play potentially in the future with kind of getting rid of some of those damage counters and playing around things. So
we're
pretty
coming
important.
down. We're definitely coming down to the wire here. Tord's going to just piece together what he wants to attack with here. I think his path is pretty clear. He knocks out Radiant Greninja with Sableye and knocks out Snorlax with Charizard. It just depends on what order he wants to do these things in.
Yep. Do you think it makes a difference, Chip?
Not particularly. I think that going in with the Charizard here could be a little risky because then John could theoretically buy a turn since Charizard's effect, Combustion Blast, says you can't attack on the next turn, so maybe John could find a way to mess with that. Of course, we know Tord has switching cart, but I don't know. It's one of the things you want maybe play around. Does John play, you know, a Marnie, which we do know he has a copy of, so that might be something Tord is debating here. Cramorant also an option, maybe in combination with an Escape Rope or something. Bring up that Radiant Greninja. Oh no, it does have just 1 damage counter on it, so wouldn't actually even be able to knock that out.
That is very true. So Air Balloon retreating out of that Comfy in the active position into the Sableye that has the Psychic Energy attached. Course, looking to use that Lost Mine. Yeah,
going to be KOing the Radiant Greninja here. It's really the only choice because if Tord was to put any damage counters on the Snorlax,
they wouldn't happen,
they would disappear. It would be a wasted attack, so... As long as I'm sure Tord is definitely well aware of that fact, so...
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
He definitely has played against his fair share of these. He will bench the Charizard. I do like this. Put it down just in case of the Marnie from John. Take the knockout.
Powerful.
Could be a big flip here if John could wake up. No, Snorlax stays asleep.
Staying asleep on that Snorlax, of course. Its move making
Thumping
you,
Snore,
Thumping Snore making you flip 2 coins instead of 1 on that Pokemon checkup for the sleep. So not
John,
waking up.
John has a chorus. I think that his only way to win this game, I mean, he's looking at the scoop up nets. He's looking at the switch cards. We know Tord has switch card in hand, though. John's just going to check. Maybe there's a win condition of boss's orders bring up Manaphy or Cramorant and just hope that Tord can't move it. That might be what he's counting here. Wants to count exactly what he's got available.
Yeah, this is definitely coming down to these last couple of turns, Chip. It is getting so intense here, John. Nothing else on the board except for the Snorlax that is fast asleep, blocking the bridge.
Yep. Blocking John's path to victory,
yes.
It seems so far. I mean, I really do think that John's only possible way to win this game involves Sableye plus Galarian Zigzagoon double pinging the 2 Pokemon on the bench, the Comfey and the Manaphy with 70 HP apiece.
Yeah, of course, if we do see that Sableye, which we might. Here's a Quick Ball discarding the Giratina V here now. So let's see if John's going to grab
Sableye.
it. It's right there.
But I think John's out of Scoop of Net, so he cannot do the Sableye play.
No.
He cannot do the Zigzagoon play, and also he is out of switching cards. I don't think he can move this Snorlax out of the active.
That makes this whole situation a lot more sticky, Chip. Oh, no.
Yeah, I think that the writing might be on the wall for this one for John Ing. I don't think that there's a realistic path to victory for him. Can go for the Marnie for now, but and I guess he's hoping that Tord, of course, Tord cannot attack. Let's not forget, cannot attack right now with that path to peek and play. He has to find the lost vacuum. So that is really what John's hope is here. Just put this Snorlax up. Hope that eventually you'll flip the double heads, wake up.
Eventually.
And Tord's already got the lost vacuum in hand.
Oh, but the Snorlax woke up too. No, there it is. The lost vacuum, securing that, of course, taking that path to the peak away. For that last prize card that Tord needed, really knocking out that Snorlax with the Radiant Zard there. And that was quite the game,
it really was.
Chip. So many difficult decisions by both of these players, and we are seeing the skill unfold on the table in front of us.
And we can see that one game took 45 minutes
yeah,
of
I'm
the
not
75
surprised,
available.
Chip.
Yes.
I'm really not surprised.
You can see how this is a very grindy matchup. I gotta feel like if John could have worked in that Sableye play, or if he had not missed a KO that turn, the turn that he attacked Cramorant into the Radiant Charizard, that was definitely the turning point of the game. That's what Tord needed to happen in order for him to fight back in this one.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I wonder if we're going to see any sort of variation plays here. I think something to note as well, Chip, is we still never saw the Sableye come out. John never searched it with the Quick Ball, so that is still unknown knowledge potentially that Tord doesn't have from John, and not seeing it the entire game, maybe Tord's thinking, oh, well, maybe it's not in the deck. Like, I mean, it is kind of an interesting tech to have in the Giratina deck. We've seen plenty of Giratina decks that don't play it, so that is still unknown on Tord's part here, so we could potentially see some lines from John in this next match.
We do have a couple of updates from our other top 8 matches. They have all completed at this point. Zach Kreckler was able to defeat Angel, so that means Zach will move on with his Kyurem deck. Yoshi was able to defeat Osvaldo. Kyurem versus the Hisuian Zoroark. So, Shelby,
here we go.
My pick to take it down, the Hisuian Zoroark, has already fallen in top 8. Your pick, Yoshi, hangs on, though. It's actually going to be 2 Kyurems in the top 4. And then Cal Connor was able to defeat Andrew Hendrick, the 1 seed. Cal was the 34-point player who made it into cut. He bubbled in at 8th seed, and now he finds himself in top 4.
Wow, that is huge. I am super happy to hear as well, Chip, that Kyurem, that Yoshi's piloting, making it, and that is awesome. All right, here, let's check out. Oh my God, look at those prize cards, Chip. Whoa.
Double Comfey, Cramorant, and Sableye over on John's side. It is a little lower, so he can likely take it at some point. Tord has prized his Oranguru. That's a card I know he really, really does like. He played it in his Rapid Strike Urshifu deck last season. I know he's a big fan of it. We're going to kick things off with the Fog Crystal, though, as Sableye was the starter. Definitely not ideal, but Fog Crystal could bail him out with a Comfey.
Yeah, most definitely. And, of course, John opting to choose who goes first and second, taking the loss in that first game against these players. So, again, choosing to go second here to pop off with that Cramorant and get the first aggression out of this match as well. So starting over here on Tord's side, even though Tord went first last time, of course, you can't play a supporter on if you are going first, and we still saw an incredibly strong setup from Tord in the last match between these players, so we could potentially be seeing more of that from Tord here, depending on what happens, how the flowers select.
Yes, which flowers do you choose, Tord Reklev? Going to take a moment now to check through the prize card, wants to make sure he knows what he has available, at least the important things. That one Lost Vacuum being in the prizes, one of the 2 copies of Marnie, one of the 2 copies of Manaphy as well, all things that he's going to want to note.
Yeah, most definitely 2 switching cards in there, but as we've noted before,
so many switching cards.
There's a lot of switching cards in this deck. So
Tord's not going to be short on mobility, that's for sure.
No,
Speaking of which, I think every card in his hand is literally a mobility card, yes.
All right, and we're going to see that escape rope, of course, John not having to escape into anything because there's nothing there. So we're going to see the flower selection here, flower selecting from Tord, this first one, trying to get as many cards as possible, as early as possible into this lost zone. So let's see what the options are. It's an energy and a Sableye.
Yeah, this is tough. Tord definitely was hoping to find a Battle VIP pass, but is unable to do so. So now that's 4 cards in his deck that are going to be unuseful, and his setup is not going to be very useful either.
Yep, and the Sableye is going to hit the Lost Zone. The first card in the Lost Zone, we are going to see the first Scoop Up Net as well. Of course, we saw so many switching cards in the hand for Tord, so we're just going to see the exact same play once again. Scoop Up Net, that Comfy, play it back down, escape rope back into it, and flower select again 2 cards off the top. Look at that chip.
Wow.
The Battle VIP pass. Tord getting lucky here with that. That is
Expending
awesome.
a lot of switching cards and does have to lose a Clara, but is able to pull off the Battle VIP pass. The only turn of the game, he's able to play this card, and he'll be able to continue to set up.
Yeah, that is huge. Battle VIP pass being activated, of course, now. Clara going into the Lost Zone for 2 total cards in the Lost Zone now. And let's see what is selected off this Battle VIP pass. I believe that's what happened last time. I think it was the first flower selecting was one of the options was a Battle VIP. So that's why you play 4 copies of it.
Yep, it is one of the most impactful cards in the Pokemon TCG right now. I mean, the difference that starting with this card in your opening hand makes in the outcome of your game is really immense. I mean, it is just so, so important.
Imagine when we lose Quick Ball as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be brutal. All right, so we do see the Comfy and the Manaphy, that very important Manaphy. You know, maybe we forget about it sometimes because it's just kind of chilling on the bench, but it is providing that barrier between being attacked by a lone Greninja.
Yes, and that Tord has prized one of his 2 copies of Manaphy. I mean,
so that's important.
The fact that he's playing 2 Manaphy alone tells you just how good a card like Radiant Greninja is into this deck, and it makes a lot of sense that Tord wants to value bringing this Manaphy out as quickly as possible.
Most definitely. All right, so we are going to see the air balloon attached to the active Comfy for that retreat into the Comfy on the bench, and we're going to see another flower selecting, another Battle VIP pass as well, and Tord's opting to select it off of one of these flowers, I suppose you could say, and dumping the switch card into the Lost Zone for a total of 3 now. Playing this Battle VIP pass, 2 more basic Pokemon being drawn out of the deck here for Tord. Lining up this bench on, of course, our first turn here for Tord. This is very similar to what we saw in the last match of the first turn. Just full bench, you know, energy's out, fully stacked hand as well. Just incredibly strong starts here going first, and we can't see a supporter, and we haven't even gotten this far without a supporter.
And it really does just go to show how powerful this engine is. The Lost Zone being, the Comfys being able to get through the deck, and the strength of Battle VIP pass really shines through in these type of situations.
Yeah, and you have to think, if John is valuing this strategy without the Giratinas completely and just playing with 1 prize Pokemon, those are kind of just dead cards in the deck. I guess it makes it a little bit easier when you're having to flower select and choose in that sense. But yeah, that's definitely something to note. All right, here we go. So still continuing on with this turn, we're going to see a switch card into that 3rd Comfy. I believe it's the 4th, though, flower selecting for the turn.
More digging.
More digging here. More flower selecting. We're going to see what Tord opts to keep, and it's going to be that Path to the Peak, opting to send the Lost Vacuum to the Lost Zone and playing that Path to the Peak. So very familiar as well from the last match we saw between these players. Path to the Peak being active, except a little bit earlier this time from Tord.
Yep.
So John is going to be locked from that Radiant Greninja plays even earlier than the last game.
Right. This is definitely. Oh, wow. This.
That hand?
John's hand is terrible, but he had a Luminion to at least get him a supporter.
Not anymore.
But he cannot use Luminion now because of the Path to the Peak. He's going to be very reliant on this flower selecting. Let's see what he can find.
Oh, no. Maybe a stadium bump, the training court?
That would be big. It's a Marnie, so that's at least a supporter, but it's not a Colress. So John, by choosing to go second, is banking on the fact that he's going to get off an attack on the first turn. If you're playing a Marnie as opposed to a Colress, it is so much less likely that an attack is coming.
That is definitely true. We're going to start off with a quick ball, again, discarding that easy fodder of the Giratina Vstar.
Yeah, really apparent that John does not want to go with Giratina in this matchup.
No.
Really, totally relying on these single prize Pokemon.
Yeah, you don't want to leave any liabilities on your bench, that is for sure. And that is the strategy John has chosen. So searching through the deck here, of course, selecting a basic Pokemon to do some more selecting of the flowers as well.
More flowers to be picked, selected.
Yeah, not picked, Chip, selected, okay?
Yeah, flower picking.
It's an ability already.
Yeah, it's like a Florges ability from a few years ago.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, so we are going to see an Ultra Ball discarding that Luminion now that was, I guess, useless to this hand currently.
Right.
And a Psychic Energy for a Cramorant now. So there is the Cramorant, but there's only one card in the Lost Zone. And no Colresses either. Energy being attached to that Comfey and the Marnie.
Needs to be a very good 5 cards here for John.
He
needs to find a way to use flower selecting a lot more times. That is not a bad start, though. The scoop up net, the quick ball, these are all ways that he can use more and more Comfeys this turn. I almost wonder if John should have attached the energy to the bench Comfey and hoped to get into a scoop up net so that this active Comfey could be scooped up. You send up the one with the energy on the bench, and then you bench it down. You can retreat.
More.
Right, exactly. Get a little bit more of a pivot around. But
That's
it's hard to know that you were going to get into scoop up net specifically, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's definitely a toss-up there that you may not have weighed in on. But if we could see a stadium bump potentially, I mean, John, I think there's only one training court. That's the only stadium in the deck?
And it's in his prizes.
Oh, it's in the prizes?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay, so we are not going to see a stadium bump.
Well, he can use Lost Vacuum at some point, theoretically.
That's true, yeah, that's true.
He does find Battle VIP Pass, but it's accompanied by a scoop up net. Two super good cards. This is the one turn John can use the VIP Pass. He does have a net in hand already. He has used his one retreat per turn already, so that does complicate things. Both of these Comfeys have been used. Oh, if John could find a way to get the Lost Vacuum, that would add another card as well.
There's only one copy, and I think that is what John needs to see, honestly, at this point, is the Lost Vacuum.
Yeah, to just get another card in the Lost Zone.
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, but also to be able to get that Greninja and actually use it, the Radiant Greninja, off the Path to the Peak, just to see more cards and get more cards in the Lost Zone. It is still possible. I mean, we only need to see 4 cards and some sort of way to switch that Cramorant up to take a knock, which is exactly what John is looking for in this turn. Of course, having opted to go second really needs to not miss this knockout.
And I think he is going to miss it. Yeah, it does seem like it's just a pass, and this puts the ball all the way in toward Reklev's court. It is his match to win at this point. 18 minutes left on the clock. Oh, but his hand is a little awkward here. He does, of course, have flower selecting. Looks like he has 3 psychic energies in his hand, which is definitely pretty awkward to see. I think a couple switching cards as well. Path to the Peak, switch card, and a scoop up net.
Yeah, so no lack of switch cards here for Tord. We are going to see that scoop up net, speaking of switch cards, into another Comfey, and most likely that flower selecting is exactly what we're going to see. Of course, that coin being placed to signify that ability has been used just for easier tracking. If you're like, oh, why are there coins all over the place? That is why. All right, so flower selecting, opting, of course, to keep that scoop up net, such an important card, and the Fog Crystal is going to hit the Lost Zone, now totaling a 6-card Lost Zone for Tord.
We'll see if Tord can get to 10 cards this turn. He definitely needs
That'd
to
be great.
find a Colress's Experiment to make that happen. Worst case scenario, of course, he can just spit innocently with the Cramorant, still take a prize card. But if he can start putting on pressure with the Sableye, that would be very solid.
Yep, that Battle VIP pass, easy selection there. Lost Zone totaling 7 now for Tord, of course. For that Sableye, we have to get to 10, which is, I guess, still potentially an option here. Of course, we do have another switch card in hand to get into that Comfey for our third flower selecting of this turn for Tord. And let's see if we can hit that Colress.
Yes, looking for Colress. One more flower selecting, 2 more cards to see. This will be putting 8 cards in, and no, Shelby, I do not see it.
Yeah, I think that was a Path to the Peak and an Escape Rope, I believe. Yep.
Yep.
Escape Rope being kept in the Path to the Peak, going into the Lost Zone. Of course, the Path to the Peak is already in play right now, and John's only way of bumping that is that single copy of Lost Vacuum from the deck. So may be in play potentially for quite a bit longer, depending on what happens here on John's side. All right, so Tord attaching that Psychic Energy to the Sableye on the bench here, and then Air Balloon retreating into the Cramorant. Of course, there are 8 cards in the Lost Zone, so Cramorant's ability is unlocking that free move, that Spit Innocently for 110 damage.
And Tord takes that first prize card as well in this game. We talked about how the person who attacks first is definitely going to be favored in the match. It was John favored for the majority of that first match, but Tord found a path back in. Now John is going to be the one searching for answers here, trying to figure out a way that he can win this game.
Colress is definitely a way to start, and some easy picks there. Probably that Giratina V, the Battle VIP. Pass, most likely. There's Escape Rope, 2 energy cards as well, pretty important to keep. So that is what we're going to see hit the Lost Zone for John.
Up to 4 cards. So Cramorant now online, something John was really trying to make
for
happen last turn. Exactly.
Oof. And we are going to see that flower selecting that coin, signifying that ability. Scoop up net, and of course, that Vstar easily hitting that Lost Zone, totaling 5 cards now here for John in the Lost Zone. Our new beautiful mechanic that we've been working with throughout this day 1 and day 2. Lots of cards in hand.
Yeah, a bunch of energies, but a couple switching cards. It's a little awkward, though. Can bring up the Comfey and with a Scoop Up Net and then go with the Cramorant attack. Attaching for turn to Snorlax seems great. It's something that you can take time to power up over the course of a few turns, especially if you're streaming attacks with Cramorant a couple of turns in a row, bringing it back with things like Ordinary Rod. John does play 2 copies, but 1 is in the prizes, let's not forget.
Yeah, let's not forget those prizes for sure. Those are some important prizes. There's also 4 Pokemon in the prizes, if you all have forgotten, for John as well. 2 Comfeys, that's Sableye and a Cramorant at the top there, too.
Oh, yeah, so the fact that Tord took a KO and a Comfey means that this Comfey in the active spot is
the only Comfey.
Yep, that's his only flower selection.
Oh, no, no, no. The options to select flowers is dwindling down then here for John. And the Comfeys are mid-prize cards, too. So they may not even be taken out of the prize cards.
Not super quickly, no.
Yeah, not quickly, potentially, on how John decides to choose them. We are going to see the Escape Rope here Tord promoting a Comfey from the deck into the active position. And John just taking the knockout on that Comfey with the Spit Innocently that has been unlocked with those Lost Zone cards, activating it and taking the first prize card. Of course, a turn too late.
Yep.
And now it is over to Tord.
And if Tord takes the knockout on Comfey here with the Sableye, that means John's not going to have access to Sableye unless he expends his Ordinary Rod to bring them back into the deck, which usually you want to be using Ordinary Rod to bring back your attackers.
Yeah, most definitely. That is that would be a choice for sure that we could see potentially. All right, here we go. Flower selecting. Putting a Comfey into the Lost Zone, totaling 9 cards now.
Just
in
one
the
more.
Lost Zone. One more that we need to see from Tord, and I think we are potentially going to see it. I don't know. Let's see. Let's look at the hand. Oh, yeah, there is a Comfey there.
He's also got Lost Vacuum and Path to the Peak in hand, so he could theoretically Lost Vacuum, bump his own Path to the Peak, and then put a new Path to the Peak in play.
Play another Path to the Peak.
Exactly.
Wow.
Comfey's going to make it a little easier, though. Just one more flower selecting will work.
Yes, we are going to see these 2 cards. What do we have? Oh,
Ooh,
is that
tough choices there.
Sableye and a Cram?
That's exactly what it was.
Oh,
2
no.
of Tord's attackers. He has been the aggressor in this match, so losing an attacker is okay.
Yeah, I think there was already one Sableye that
Oh,
was
you're right,
discarded
yep.
first to the Lost Zone, and now that Cram is hitting the Lost Zone as well. So a couple of Pokemon in the Lost Zone there for Tord. Now totaling 10 cards, though.
Yes.
We have unlocked the potential of the 10 cards in the Lost Zone for Tord here. And we are going to see an escape rope. Of course, John gets to decide first who to promote before Tord gets to promote a Pokemon from the bench.
I think John will just send up the Snorlax here. It seems he did the same thing in game number 1 off of an escape rope. Sent up the Snorlax because it was most likely to withstand a hit. It can't be damaged by the Sableye, but John runs the risk of not finding a way to get the necessary cards in the Lost Zone, not finding Mirage Gate, and then just being stuck with a Snorlax in the active spot, which is something he does not want.
Yeah, and I think maybe deciding because of that, Chip, to promote the Radiant Greninja anyway, instead of that, I should say. The Path to the Peak, of course, is locking that Radiant Greninja down right now, as we've discussed before. So it's just kind of hanging out in the active position now.
Yeah, John's like, you're not letting me use this anyway. Please just KO it.
Just KO it, yeah. Just get rid of it, I guess. I haven't hit the Lost Vacuum, so
nope, it's not happening
sad.
Just yet.
Yeah, definitely not.
The thing is, though, is Tord's not even going to knock it out. John's just sending this up. It's going to absorb a hit or maybe just receive 1 damage counter or something like that. I think Tord will almost definitely Lost Mine to KO the Comfey.
Oh, and that's the only Comfey.
And now the question becomes, where do these other 5 damage counters go? At least 1 seems good on the Radiant Greninja, so that if John plays a switch or escape rope, that you can KO it later with a Lost Mine. So I think Tord agrees. Oh, just actually going to be placing 2 there so that you have the option to KO it with Cramorant later as well.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
Changing the mind there. Yeah, just putting all 5. Of course, 5 damage counters equaling 50 damage on that Radiant Greninja now that's in the active position. And now we're back over to John's side of this situation. Chip, what do you think John's options are here?
Well, he's got to get this Greninja out of the active.
Yeah,
He'd like to get 2 more energies into the, 2 more cards into the Lost Zone, so he can maybe use something like Mirage Gate to pull a couple of energies out of the deck.
Yeah, so I'd say probably not the energies, the 2 energies in the
I think
Lost Zone.
Starting to attack with this Snorlax as quickly as possible would be pretty good because it is the hardest thing for Tord to deal with. He can't use Radiant Charizard until much later in the game. So if John can find a way to use Snorlax and maybe clear his bench of this Cramorant through something like Scoop Up Net, I mean, there's nothing Tord, can really do to just an active Snorlax.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's what we're going to be seeing here from John. We're going to see the Scoop Up Net scooping up that Radiant Greninja, so all that damage that was just placed by Tord going away. Of course, Tord knowing that is an option that John has.
Yeah, John's hand's not very good. He doesn't have a Colress. There's not even a Marnie. He's holding on to a Roxanne. And actually something that would be really interesting is if next turn, as John does take a KO here, if next turn, Tord takes a KO on this Cramorant, John is able to send up this Snorlax and then play Roxanne. Limit Tord a bunch, and then put a Pokemon in the active that Tord just does not have an efficient way of dealing with.
Yeah, also John just drew that Ordinary Rod as well out of the prize cards too. So now that being in hand, of course, that single Comfey is still in the discard pile for John as well. But we are going to see the flowers selecting here from Tord.
Going to make sure how many cards he's got in deck about. Always want to be mindful of those things. He's got a Fire Energy in hand and 1 to Lost Zone here, and does decide to take Colress as well.
Yeah, when so many resources are hitting both your discard pile and your Lost Zone, your Lost Zone, it's pretty important to make sure you're not going to deck yourself out at any time soon.
Yes.
All right, here we go. So we are going to see that Colress's Experiment, top 5 cards here.
Ooh. A lot of supporters.
That is a lot of supporters for sure. And 3 cards are going to have to be selected here from Tord, 2 of them going into the Lost Zone. I think there was a Marnie. I think there's 2 Colress in there, Cross Switcher and Air Balloon.
Thinking of which ones are most vital for him to keep. He has prized a Marnie, so he might value that Disruption option. It looks like he's chosen that as one to hang on to for now. And is it going to be one of the two Colress? I mean, I think one of the two Colress definitely has to get Lost Zoned. The question is just, do you Lost Zone two Colress, or do we lose a Cross Switcher here? And it looks like Cross Switcher is the answer.
Yeah, we didn't see any Cross Switcher plays from Tord. We even saw the early opt to put a Cross Switcher into the Lost Zone in the last match. So yeah, just leaning into that same strategy, sending a Colress and a Cross Switcher into the Lost Zone for a total of 13 cards now in the Lost Zone for Tord. Of course, not really trying to hit more cards in the Lost Zone, really just trying to get through the deck and select more cards to get into the hand. So we are going to see another flower selecting here. Was that the Scoop Up Net and
the Charizard? Yes.
Oh, no.
Definitely a tough call, an annoying one, but I think actually the choice is easy. It's just annoying. You have to keep the Radiant Zard around.
Yeah.
It's your closer. It's one of your most important cards. It's the only way you can really deal with Snorlax. It just is really unfortunate to have to get rid of the Scoop Up Net.
Yep. All right. And we are going to see an escape rope here.
Snorlax comes to the active. Sableye coming into the active now for Tord, which will be able to KO this Cramorant there on the bench. Charizard does come down, and I actually think this is smart from Tord, playing around the potential Roxanne from John's side. He knows that he's going to take a prize this turn, go to 3. John could play Roxanne and then swing with the Snorlax, go to 3 prizes, and then Tord doesn't have an easy way to deal with it. But by benching the Charizard, putting an energy on it, he now is only going to need to find a way to get rid of the Path to the Peak and 1 energy card off of potential Roxanne in order to take a KO on this Snorlax.
All right, so we did see if that Cramorant go down to the Sableye here, taking another prize card for Tord on this side. Now the lone Snorlax in the active position with those 3 energy already attached. We're going to see an Ordinary Rod here from John, selecting 2 Comfey and 2 energy cards to be shuffled back into the deck. Probably going back into the deck here now with the Quick Ball, discarding the Drapion to it to select that Comfey back out of the deck that was just shuffled in with the Ordinary Rod. This is the only Comfey that we are working with here on John's end, so it is a very valuable asset right now to John.
Yeah, definitely one of the more important pieces. John is going to be clinging to this Comfey, hoping it can just hang on, stick around for a little while, buddy, so that I can get some value from this flower selecting ability.
Here's the Roxanne that John is eyeing up right now, and we are going to see it, of course, Tord being available, I guess, now for that Roxanne to happen. With only 3 prize cards left on Tord's side. So both players shuffling their hands into their deck. John still not having revealed that Sableye that was debating whether or not to bench it before the Roxanne, I think before, but now just shuffling it back into the deck. John can be able to draw 6 cards, and Tord is going to draw 2.
Only 2 cards to work with. Tord does have the Air Balloon on his Comfey, so that will be at least a pretty easy pivot, a little easy of a send up. Ooh, but the Lost Vacuum draw from John could actually be annoying, and it looks like, will target down that Air Balloon. That is a really big pickup off of the Roxanne.
Yeah, that is huge for sure. So
and that Air Balloon that Tord just discarded does need to go to the Lost Zone, so we'll make sure that that gets sorted out. Not too big of a deal, though. Tord's already way past the point, and the Air Balloon can't be recovered from the discard pile anyway, but it does need to go to the Lost Zone.
Yeah, just for the stream, definitely. All right, so the Air Balloon is now in the Lost Zone, secured in there. John taking a Comfey out of the prize cards here with that knockout on the Sableye from the Snorlax. Snorlax now sleeping on that bridge for John, and Tord electing to promote another Pokemon, but thinking it through course, of course.
He's drawn into 2 supporters here off of the Roxanne. He's got Colress and Marnie as options.
Wow. All right, so
pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah, I was about to say, we'll see what happens here. Which decision Tord goes with it. Gonna be the Colress? Yeah.
Looks like it. So Tord actually needs a bit here. He needs a switching card to move the Comfey. He needs a way to get the Path to the Peak out of play, and he needs to get another energy card for his Charizard. And it doesn't look like he's drawn it here. He could also find a way to attack with just a Sableye and take a prize on Comfey this turn. He doesn't have to attack into the Snorlax, so let's see if he has those options available.
Yeah, sending both a Fog Crystal and another Path to the Peak into the Lost Zone here for Tord. We'll see what else. There's 2 Cross Switchers in hand now for Tord because of that Colress's Experiment as well. And then we are going to see the first Flower selecting here, 2 cards.
Ooh.
Oh, there's a Fog Crystal. There is a Psychic Energy in hand as well for Tord. So Fog Crystal would be able to search out a Sableye, but is there one available?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, there's 3.
Both are in the discard pile, and I think there's one in the Lost Zone from early in the game.
Yeah, that was the first card to hit the Lost Zone, actually. So we would have to see
I think John might have successfully bought himself a turn here. Tord has double Cross Switcher available, so he can dig a little bit more with this Comfy.
Yeah, we would have to see a Clara from Tord to get those Pokemon back into the hands, but of course, Colress's Experiment has already been played for this turn, so we're not going to see that until the next couple of turns. But we are going to see a Cross Switcher play here.
I wonder if Tord will just go in with the Cramorant. Just wants to take the prize. He could look with the other Comfy, but it might just be worthwhile to take the knockout here.
Especially
make sure you stay up on the prize race, right?
Yeah, definitely. Consistently knocking out these Pokemon is definitely important. So, yeah, and also looking at the deck, how many cards are even left? Because, you know, going through so many. Ooh, actually going into the Comfy, though. So we actually might see another Flower selecting ability. That is what we're going to see.
Okay.
So 2 more cards.
2 more cards. There is that Lost Vacuum and a Path. So Path to the Peak could be bumped now from Tord. He has the energy to attack with Charizard, but I don't think he can move the Comfy to the bench with a switching card. He's going to have to retreat, so it won't be... Oh, yeah, doesn't need to attack with Charizard, of course, because Snorlax has hit the bench now, so Cramorant is the option here, able to take out this Comfy, and it's going to be just lone lax on John's side.
Yeah, very familiar to the last game as well between these players. Lone Snorlax, except this time, Chip, that Snorlax is awake now, being moved to the bench and back into the active position, which allows it to attack because it's not sleeping.
5 cards from the top on Colress's Experiment. John is finally going to pass the threshold of 7 cards. Mirage Gate would now be activated, though I am not even sure if he has access to one. And this is a tough call here as well. One of each energy type and the Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, that is definitely a tough one indeed. Look at the difference in the Lost Zones there.
Yes.
John having 8 cards and Tord having 16, double the cards in the Lost Zone. That just shows you kind of the pace that both these players have been working with. Definitely been difficult uphill battle here for John, but 3 prize cards left for John. Tord only sitting at 2. It's going to be a nail biter of a finish, Chip.
Yep. And it is going to come down to it, and time has officially expired. John Ing is going to be turn 0, which means Tord Reklev will have turn 1 and 3. John, of course, also having turn 2 available to him. Tord, with only 2 prizes left, I think should be able to close this out before turn 3 ends. Rules get a little wonky when it comes to how things work in single elimination, but for now, we'll just go with the knockout. Thumping Snore KOing that Cramorant. Snorlax staying asleep, snoozing on the job. And does Tord have the response? I do believe that Lost Vacuum still in hand. That is an easy way for Radiant Charizard to come in and take a KO.
Yeah, most definitely. So going with the Comfy, promoting that into the active position here for Tord. Ooh, top decks the Clara, Chip.
And that's a big pickup. He
That's
can now
a huge pickup.
Get access to the Sableyes in the discard pile, and it almost feels like the writing would be on the wall if Tord can just get some Sableyes in play, maybe use Sableye this turn, attack into one of the Comfies, go ahead and Lost Vacuum, get that Path to the Peak out of there, unless he's worried about maybe John playing his own Path to the Peak, something like that. But, yeah, might want to just hold on to that piece just in case.
Yeah, that was definitely huge. Clara is such a strong card. The Pokemon and the energy drawn off of it out of the discard pile going to your hand instead of into the deck.
And this could actually be pretty good. Use a Rangaroo, put the Clara on top of the deck, and then play the Marnie. Or you could put the Lost Vacuum on top of the deck, play the Marnie, disrupt John a little bit, and then go in with a knockout, maybe with a Sableye. I guess he has to play Clara to get back the Sableye.
Yeah, would have to play the Clara in that sense. But going with the Marnie instead, so both players shuffling their hands, going to put it to the bottom of their decks. Tord drawing 5 cards off of this Marnie, and John drawing 4. So disrupting that hand a little bit on John's side here.
I'm a
Let's see
little
what
interested.
Tord.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious where Tord is going with this. He does draw back into the Lost Vacuum. I guess he does only have a few cards in deck, so he knows that it's pretty likely off the Marnie he can get
True.
into it, or off of Flower Selecting he can get into it. He's just trying to thin as much as possible so that he can still attack with his Radiant Charizard this turn. The double mana fee.
Yeah, 2 mana fee on the bench now. A full party here, full bench for Tord. Rangaroo going to use this Primate Wisdom. So Tord did get to see one of the favorite Pokemon being played here with that Primate Wisdom. So switching the top card with a card in hand. Oh.
It looks like it was actually Primate Wisdom and pass over to John.
It was a
Snorlax
pass.
did flip double heads and wake up.
Here we go. Snorlax is back awake with that double heads. Maybe Tord hoping that it was just going to stay asleep. But I guess, I don't know. Double heads is flipped for John. 4 energy now attached because of a manual attached for turn, which means that 4 retreat costs is able to retreat this Snorlax onto the bench, potentially. Of course, John having access to Mirage Gate now with Lost Zone being at 8 cards. Going to see a Comfey with the flower selecting ability here. Oh!
Gonna scoop it up, recognizes he doesn't have a way to close things out. Tord showing, yeah, Lost Vacuum was available to me, and he's got this game locked up. Tord Reklev is moving on to top 4 here in Peoria.
Congratulations to Tord and to John Ang coming into this tournament with an impressive 9-0 in our day 1. John Ang showed an incredibly fighting spirit throughout this entire tournament, but just came up short against Tord, one of the most achieved players, I suppose, in this hobby, in this community. So Tord just pulling out that win.
Absolutely. Massive congratulations to John Ang. Making top 8 at these regional championships is so difficult to do. And he did it with a brand new deck as well, which
I know.
There's something to be said for that fact in and of itself. Being able to play a brand new archetype that doesn't have a defined list. John is being one of the driving forces behind, normalizing a standardized list for the Giratina Vstar deck, and it's absolutely something that players are going to be taking into account as they prepare for Salt Lake City here in the next few weeks.
That is true, and then you can say that. You can say, I took Giratina to top 8 in the very first tournament of this format, so that is a huge accomplishment in itself, Chip. What a great match. I mean, that was a long one. It was very grindy back and forth here, but it's also great to see the Lost Zone work in 2 different ways for both of those players, showcasing it on our big stage here on the tables.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent match. I mean, it was definitely quite the slog. Those single prizers going back and forth into each other. It really does become quite a grind from both of these players, but Tord was able to navigate things very well, especially after going down in prizes early in game number 1, finding the way to kind of fight back in that game. Definitely a testament to how strong of a player Tord is.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But after that super long game, we are going to throw it to a short break, but definitely stay tuned because the most suspenseful matches are still to come with our top 4 and our finals coming up today. So definitely stay with us.
Welcome back to the largest city on the Illinois River, Peoria, Illinois. We are here for the Pokemon TCG Regional Championships. Jeremy Jallin, Kyle Sablehouse, we're Sayballin', and this is our top 4 match of this weekend.
Oh boy, we have a doozy lined up. This has been quite an event. So many amazing players making it into day 2 of competition. Over 100 players working their way through 6 additional rounds, trying to get into that top 8. And now we're ready for the top 4, where we have 2 great names lined up, 2 interesting decks as well. Of course, 2 of the top 4 largest played decks in the tournament. We're going to see a Palkia Vstar up against the Kyurem Vstar with the Palkia as a
Vmax.
A tag team as well. Yeah, Vmax. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, there has been a lot of Palkia in this top 8, and it seems like it's still not going to go away. Kyurem Vmax is going to be a little new addition for some of those, and we have the players shaping up for our top 4. You saw John Ang take a loss to Tord Reklev in a very long top 8 game.
Yeah.
And then you have Zachary Kreckler, of course, winning over Angel Miranda. That was a pretty close one in 3 games.
Yeah, you actually had some time to go ahead and get out there and check out the rest of the top 8. Was there anything interesting that you saw as it came down the wire? I know it looked like Yoshi was the only one who was able to take it in 2 games, so we must have had some quick ones early on.
Yeah, really just showing the power of that Kyurem Vmax, and up against that Hisuian Zoroark Vstar. It was a really good deck and fun meta call for this tournament, making top 8. But just the big Vmax HP, the ability to just one-hit any of those Pokemon, and it fell short up against Yoshi.
Yeah, I feel like the Kyurem Vmax with the damage cap not really being an issue is the thing that really has set this deck apart from the others. Of course, we know that the Palkia Vstar loves to hit for upwards of 260 damage, and then of course you have some amplifiers along with it. Hisuian Zoroark can hit some big numbers as well, but there's just nothing like that Kyurem.
Oh, no, not at all. And again, on the other side of the bracket, we're going to have Tord up against Zachary, of course, so that's going to be a pretty interesting matchup for sure. But for our feature for top 4, it is going to be Yoshi Tate up against Calvin Connor.
All right, let's go ahead and jump down to the table. Check out our 2 players here in the top 4 of Peoria, Illinois' regional championship. First up on our left, we have Yoshi Tate, a fan favorite, personally. Just one of those incredible players we love seeing, loves to bring some spice, and I feel like he feels like he let us down a little bit in the fact that this isn't spicy enough. But you know what? I think the Kyurem's spicy. Thanks for bringing it for us, and we do see some accomplishments to his name. 2018 top 16, 2010 regional finalist. He's just one of those welcomed faces every single time we see him in an event.
And of course, he's going to be playing that Kyurem Vmax with that Origin Form Palkia Vstar. So just kind of marrying the best of both worlds when it comes to those powerful water Pokemon.
Yeah, that is going to be a Pokemon to watch out for. That Kyurem Vstar can certainly put in a lot of work. Vmax is going to be put in a lot of work. Whew, long day. Calvin Connor on the other side. He already has an accomplishment to his name just this year already with the Baltimore Regionals just a couple weeks ago with that top 16. World Championships 2022, the top 16. Top 4 with the seniors division, and he's just been day 2ing basically every event that we've seen.
Yeah, on a hot streak for sure these past few months, and of course going to be playing that Origin Form Palkia Vstar, but with Inteleon, so a little bit more of the classic that we've seen, and you have to kind of attribute that to how well Cal's been playing through Worlds and Baltimore.
Yeah, I feel like if you put a consistent deck in his hands, he's going to find his way to the top tables over and over again. This is just the way that he plays. He's put in so many hours throughout all these years of playing Pokemon, and if you give him that consistency, sure enough, this is no surprise to see him here.
Let's go ahead and take a look at these prizes. Both of these players have Origin Form Palkia V in the prize cards, but Yoshi has that Kyurem V to go along with a Crobat V. So a lot of Pokemon in these prize cards for both players. The Manaphy could also be a sign of something to come for Cal there.
Yeah, the 1-1 Palkia line up at the top, a little bit awkward. I got scared for a second and thought it was a double copy. That could be a problem, but looks like both these players will be able to deal with these prize cards. And look at both these players in great spirits, ready to give us an amazing match here in the top 4.
Listen, it's been a long time coming for Yoshi to be here again. You saw that last, the win was 2010, I believe, on the achievements. So a good old 12 years removed. And wow, starting off the top 4 here, Cal has double battle VIP pass. Now going to be able to search the deck for 4 basic Pokemon and get them on the bench.
Giratina V, not exactly ideal in this situation, but you know what? You give me 2 backstage passes and I'll feel pretty confident. And this is a pretty strong start you see here. Going to be able to search out just about everything necessary. I believe that Radiant Greninja should still be available. Yes, it is there.
And the big difference for both of these decks, of course, they are focused around that Origin Form Palkia Vstar in the ability to Star Portal, get some energy in play, but Yoshi is going to rely on a Kyurem Vmax as the big attacker trying to clean up things, and because of that, he's going to be able to play with kind of a relatively small bench throughout the match.
Yeah, I feel like this Drapion could be awkward for Calvin, just in general, any of these Pokemon that you aren't going to be able to clear off by way of a scoop-up net. You're just giving Yoshi an opportunity for multiple prizes that aren't 280 hit points, and that can be where you see that Yoshi's getting to preserve some of those resources, as maybe not needing to discard as many water energies when taking a big knockout.
Taking a look at the hand here, it does look like a water for that concealed cards for Cal here. We'll be able to draw 2 cards thanks to that Radiant Greninja. And wow, finds an Irida off the top of the deck. So for turn 1, looking pretty good. You got those 2 VIP passes, and then next turn you're going to be able to Irida Evolution Incense for pretty much everything you need.
Yeah, that's a strong start, even considering adding the Path to the Peak to this combination here. Could maybe slow down an opposing Radiant Greninja or that Crobat that we know is in the prize cards.
And now it is up to Yoshi to have such a good turn 2 compared to Cal's here. Is going to start things off with a Kyurem V on the bench. You see that Hisuian Heavy Ball, so that'll be able to fetch out some of those basic Pokemon that were stuck in the prizes there.
Yeah, I believe there were a couple of decisions potentially that could be made. Crobat not looking nearly as cool when you see that Path to the Peak.
Yeah, and maybe just a doubles of that Origin Form Palkia V. Again, it is not the star of the deck, but Star Portal is very beneficial, and you only really play 2/2 copies in most of these lists.
No cutting of the prize cards. Respect.
All right, again, taking a look at those prize cards there.
I do like the fact that we see the multi Origin Form Palkia V in a matchup like this. You know your opponent is probably going to be working in a large bench, so maybe you have an opportunity to take some prize cards with a Vstar Pokemon as opposed to a Vmax and really work in that prize exchange.
That was such an awkward turn, though, from Yoshi. Just has to attach an energy and pass. That Path to the Peak is going to be putting a lot of pressure, and we saw Yoshi not to rule the region.
Hey, that's a value choice.
Listening for that win rate.
That's right. I respect it. Even though that means that Yoshi didn't even look through the deck this turn.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a missed opportunity.
Cal does start things off with that Irida, that powerful supporter, searching for a water Pokemon and an item. Going to grab that Origin Form Palkia Vstar and the Capacious Bucket, and thanks to the bucket, 2 water energies, and this is looking like one pretty great turn.
Yep, we still see that path out, so maybe a little slower. But we'll see what the rest of the hand has to come along with that.
Well, we know there's that Evolution Incense, so that will be able to grab a Drizzile. There's that Galarian Zigzagoon. I think just maybe getting out of the active is going to be priority number 1 for that Drapion V. even a cross switcher to go along with it.
Yeah, we do see one cross switcher. That means that this Drizzile could potentially unlock that as an opportunity. Double cross switcher, targeting down one of these Pokemon on the bench, getting some nice damage in play by way of that Palkia Vstar. Doesn't leave much for the following turn, but it just depends on how fast you want to play this.
Cal does find the Drizzile, opting for a good shuffle here.
As opposed to a bad shuffle?
Well,
That's fair.
we're going to see a Shady Dealings most likely. Quick Ball seems to be the option for Cal, discarding that second Water Energy. Little bit of a decision tree here, but Shady Dealings is going to be the play for Cal, eyeing down that Irida for next turn. Remember, has already played one at the start of this turn.
Yeah, I like this a lot. There, of course, was an opportunity to get aggressive and use those cross switchers, but then you're just left with a hand that doesn't go anywhere. Maybe if you have an evolution incense or one of those evolution pieces, you'd feel more confident in going for a play like that. Instead, just going to play it a little slower here. Hold on to those cards, and we know that there is a quick ball in hand, so potential to fill the bench on the following turn, and then you can really start eyeing up some of these Pokemon with 220 hit points. There's definitely some plays there with the Choice Belt to start taking knockouts.
Let's see what the top of the deck holds for Yoshi. It looks like a cross switcher, only playing 2 of those, and not really going to be helpful here that much.
Yeah, we see a lot of ball search in the hand, but when you have such a small hand, you just can't really afford to do all that discarding. Are we seeing Rule the Region? Oh no!
Maybe a turn too late though. Is able to go find something like that Lost City Stadium, and the next turn can bump that path to the peak and unlock cards like Luminion V. But you'd have to think this is just really slow.
Yeah. Going to just go ahead and take this card out of the deck. Hopefully, maybe some of these other cards coming on the following turn will be more impactful. We do know that there's at least some play in the hand as far as evolutions when eventually cards are drawn, but you have to think that a supporter is the key that is missing here for Yoshi.
Well, with that Rule of the Region, it is now Cal's turn. Draws a Battle VIP pass for the turn. Not going to be too good. And you can discard that with something like Quick Ball, but we'll start things off with Irida. Irida can go find that Inteleon with its wonderful Shady Dealings ability, but this time can grab 2 cards. And yeah, eyeing down that cross switcher, we're going to see a pretty big turn here.
Yeah, this is pretty sweet. You know, always having access to the Shady Dealings is going to be something that you want to make sure you can do early in the game. Then you make use of the scoop up net, so you can pick that back up and make multiple uses of it in a turn. You have the 2 Sobble, of course, there. One is a Drizzile right now, but being able to get through the deck when your opponent has 0 cards in the discard pile, that's exactly where you want to be in the top 4 of a regional championship.
And that there is that cross switcher bringing up that Kyurem V, and with 2 energies on that Palkia Vstar, is going to need a little bit of help, but thankfully Shady Dealings will grab that Choice Belt. And with this Choice Belt, this Palkia Vstar can take the knockout.
Yep, Choice Belt, great card to get out early in this game here. Of course, Yoshi trying to keep a smaller bench, only 2, which means that if Calvin gets to the full 5 on his side, that's just 200 damage. So Choice Belt opens that up a little bit, gets to 230, which is a nice knockout there on the Kyurem V. We could also see Scoop Up Net and Glaring Zigzagoon stuff, but you know what? Let's go ahead and throw down the belt, save some resources.
You can always save that Scoop Up Net for that Inteleon. Here we see that Quick Ball going to find the 5th bench, most likely. Do have that Glaring Zigzagoon, but like you said, you could save it for later on. Yeah. Eyeing down another Palkia here.
Yeah, math doesn't really line up with the Zigzagoon. You're kind of just wasting damage, and you have to use your placement on a bench Pokemon. So this looks really great. Of course, having that second Palkia V in play means that eventually you will be able to get those energies down. Once the path is removed, you'll have that Star Portal access.
And eyeing down Irida and Evolution Incense for next turn. Cal's going to be setting up. Oh, yeah, just Irida. Next turn, we'll be able to get the Evolution Incense, and from there, just continue this game.
It feels weird, but it's just correct. Just get the card that you're going to play next turn, throw it back up in your hand, and be prepared. And Calvin has made very efficient plays to this point, and sure enough, that is going to be a clean knockout there on the Kyurem V. 230 into a 220. Removing the option for the Kyurem Vmax, at least for this foreseeable future, and Yoshi is back to being a Palkia deck, which doesn't have any Inteleon.
I think that makes it a little bit worse.
Slightly.
Now, with that Lost City in hand, Yoshi can start things off with a Luminion. We'll be able to grab that with Quick Ball, discards the Ultra Ball there. And maybe we'll actually see Yoshi play some Pokemon this match.
Yeah, he does have double choice belt in the deck, so if the bench fills, there could be a knockout. I don't want to get ahead of myself too far. There are 5 cards in hand, and only one bench Pokemon right now, but Luminion's going to try to start working on that.
Luminous Sign searches your deck for a supporter card, puts it in your hand. Irida will grab another Pokemon and an item to go along with it. And with no Path to the Peak in play, Radiant Greninja is going to be able to draw some cards with concealed cards.
Yeah, great find here. Going to just continue to draw because, I mean, honestly, Yoshi hasn't been able to do any of that. This is the first time he's looked through the deck, basically, other than that Rule the Region. And now finally going to see some additional cards to the hand, and going to need some pretty great ones here in order to make a knockout this turn.
And honestly, this whole play could have been done the turn prior, just Yoshi not opting for that Rule the Region on turn 1.
That's a good point. We'll see that Radiant Greninja coming down. The Ultra Ball is in hand. The Palkia Vstar is in hand. So I think if the belt is found in a Pokemon, then it's there. We do see the Empoleon, and we see a Kyurem Vmax.
Hey, you got it right.
Whew. 1 for 3.
Origin Form Palkia Vstar gets evolved to the active, and with an energy, we can see a subspace swell for a good amount of damage. Not going to be good enough, though.
Yeah, just feels bad to be a little bit short, but also you don't have to worry about being knocked out on your turn necessarily. We know that that Palkia is hitting for 220 damage right now, meaning that Cal is hitting for 250 on his side with that choice belt. This is a big turn for a potential boss's orders or cross switchers, though, because there are some nice prize cards available. You see that Origin Form Palkia V on the bench, and of course, Luminion V is probably going to be the last card that Calvin goes after.
Yeah, and this is that Inteleon Shady Dealings, finding 2 trainers. Most likely going to be a combination of something like those cross switchers or boss's orders here for Cal.
Yeah, this feels like the early stages of the Arceus decks going back and forth, where the decks were so focused on adding extra damage and working on knockouts of just that basic Arceus V. And sure enough, we're in a situation now where Yoshi just missed the setup, and all of these basic Vs are available to be knocked out. And Cal is not working nearly as hard as he has to take prize cards, even though his damage output isn't as strong as Yoshi's.
It does look like double cross switcher will be the find off the Shady Dealings, and I believe that's the 3rd and 4th copy. Yep. Now with this, Cal will be able to get out of the active spot, bring up that Origin Form Palkia V most likely on the bench, and we'll just need a way to retreat the Pokemon that gets brought up, or maybe even just get a new Palkia V.
We see the Irida coming down. So just going to make sure that everything is available for potential closeout on the following turn. Going to have the Origin form Palkia Vstar lined up, ready to go. The level ball for a potential Drizzile. And really just going to need a boss's orders on the next turn to close out. And that is pretty phenomenal setup. You'd have to think that Cal has drawn this up exactly how he wants to.
Well, it's just the fact that you got a few extra turns to play around with. You were able to get your full setup, those Inteleons going, and from that, yeah, here's the boss's orders. Maybe even saving the double cross switcher in hand for next turn. Or no, already played the Irida. Nice.
Oh, yeah, we see the boss now. I guess there was an opportunity to maybe go for a card like the Scoop Up Net, pick up the Inteleon, and be a little more resistant to a Roxanne. But having the card ready to go, I mean, you basically tell Yoshi, hey, you better win right now.
Training Court does bump that Lost City. We'll be able to grab a water from the discard. Cal can now attach that water to that Palkia Vstar on the bench. Here is that cross switcher, brings up that Vstar, and with plenty of Pokemon in play, Subspace Swell will be able to take the knockout.
Yep, exactly 220. Going
plenty.
To be a great number to reach. 2 prize cards for Calvin, and we'll see what's left here.
Yoshi just does not want to discard that Palkia, you know.
give him another chance. He was so young.
Yoshi drawing for the turn. Another Kyurem Vmax off the top, and these are just clogging the hand at this point. Is going to be forced to Ultra Ball a few of these away at least. And honestly, what do you even get?
That's a great point. You know, the Crobat is still in the prize cards, I believe.
Yep.
Is there a second Luminion V?
Nope.
I don't know what's happening then.
Listen, maybe we're going to have the retreat into the Luminion Star Portal Aqua return. Get that off the board. It's not good, but okay.
I recognize this play. This is the play that I do a lot. We're going to game 2.
Yeah, just a bad sequence of draws for Yoshi there, and Cal just playing out the deck perfectly, able to get that quick lead and really just keep the pressure going. Yeah,
that was basically perfect for Calvin, and it's not that he necessarily did anything too incredible. He just watched his opponent just play a bunch of Vs and lined up some really nice knockouts. And that's pretty much how you draw it up as a Palkia player. You'd love to have an opportunity where you can cash in and not be working on 2-hit knockouts. And that's obviously exactly what Yoshi's working on with all the high hit points he's dealing with on his side when he does evolve.
Yeah, and getting that VMAX in play is going to be huge in this game and potentially a game 3. You saw that supporter in hand before Yoshi scooped his Cheryl. That's a way to just kind of clean up the damage after you take a big knockout with Kyurem. Maybe just buy yourself another turn. And right now, that's what Yoshi needs, is just some more turns.
If Yoshi sets up, he's got so many cards that can help him. He's got so many cards that they press the advantage that you currently already have, but getting the setup is the scariest part. And sure enough, you do see cards like that Crobat, the Luminion, always trying to help. You really need help from that Radiant Greninja on the early turn, and that's where Calvin was able to use that path to the peak and slow things down. He made use of his engine in the Inteleon, where as Yoshi just sat there with nothing to do.
Yeah, that powerful one-of supporter in Calvin's deck, really showing off that game. Let's go ahead and take a look at the prizes here for both of these players. Luminion in the prizes and double Kyurem VMAX.
No.
Drapion in the prizes for Cal. That's
oh,
perfect.
No.
All right, yeah.
Double Evolution Incense could be a little awkward, and playing with just 5 water energies.
That's all the Evolution Incense in the deck.
Okay.
All
yep,
right.
That is weird. That could certainly be something that we see in the future. Yoshi going to have just the one Kyurem VMAX. So that I don't like that.
Thankfully, it is towards the bottom, so maybe if Yoshi gets set up this game, take some prizes, we can see some of those drawn later on. For right now, we're going to start off with a Capacious Bucket, and Yoshi, starting that Radiant Greninja, will actually be able to use concealed cards this game, and Battle VIP Pass to go along with it.
Yep, and that's how you draw it up. You have the Radiant Greninja starting things off. You're going to have access to concealed cards because your opponent doesn't get to play that path down just yet. You have an opportunity to start working through the deck in Battle VIP Pass, finding 2 key Pokemon there.
From here, Yoshi does have the energy. Thanks to that Capacious Bucket, we'll be able to concealed cards and at least get an attachment for the turn. And that's all you can really ask for with a deck like Kyurem Vmax. You really just need to get those pieces into play so that you can eventually get those Kyurem Vmax into play, and from there you just start knocking everything out. Ooh, Irida off the top.
I like it. We see the Quick Ball as well, so can think about having a 3rd Pokemon here on the bench. We did see earlier that the double Palkia was something that Yoshi went for. Curious to see if that is the strategy this time around as well.
Honestly, I think that's just the downside of having to go second in a matchup against that Origin Form Palkia, Vstar, and Teleon. It's, you basically know, as long as your opponent has access to those Drizzile, those Inteleon, they're going to be taking a knockout. And while Origin Form Palkia V is not the main attacker for the deck, its Star Portal is very beneficial for Yoshi.
Well, we can see Yoshi understanding that perfectly, going with the double Kyurem here instead, and obviously a key point to watch for is going to be the evolution of that Palkia V to make sure that you have at least some access to that Star Portal.
All right, taking a look at the hand for Cal. We got a couple search cards and Quick Ball, Level Ball, Ultra Ball, and the Irida.
He's balling.
Say ballin'.
Yeah, Irida start things off pretty awesome there. A little bit weird because you don't see the energies just yet, so instead of going for the Battle VIP Pass, going to go for the Capacious Bucket instead, which seems fine, as there's plenty of ways to search out Pokemon in the hand.
It's going to have to be a little careful of a Moonlight Shuriken from Yoshi's side of things on the next turn. So he's going to have to try to find that one-of copy of Manaphy to try and protect the bench a little bit, try to get those Sobbles sticking around for just a little bit longer, and maybe getting into some Drizzile shenanigans.
Yeah, that really highlights the advantage of going first in a matchup like this, as if you only have the 1 Sobble down, if we target that, you're in trouble. If you have 2 Sobbles down and no Manaphy, you're in trouble. If you get 1 Palkia down, you're in trouble. So you gotta make sure you have multiple copies of these cards, and it's just a lot to ask of your deck to have basically a full bench if you don't have access to a Battle VIP Pass. Going to be big for Radiant Greninja to help out here and maybe find some additional resources here off the top.
Well, honestly, with the way Cal's hand is set up, you have that Quick Ball, you have that Level Ball, and really just have to discard maybe a couple resources with that Ultra Ball. I think I even saw a second Quick Ball, so who really needs Battle VIP Pass? I think Cal can put together a pretty strong turn here without it.
We can see the sequencing as important, as Cal is not going to play any of the search effects first, rewarded with a Sobble.
Oh, it was my mistake. Not a second Quick Ball, but the ordinary Rod. So thankfully, with that Sobble found, you don't need to search for another one. You can go get that Manaphy now, and opts to get the Manaphy with Quick Ball, I believe. Yep. That just means Level Ball is going to be saved for Drizzile next turn.
Oh, there's the Quick Ball. But yeah, that is important to note. Holding on to one of these cards is going to be the way to get out of an awkward hand, because currently there is no supporter to follow up. So the Ultra Ball likely going to have to be looking for that Drizzile on the follow-up.
Origin Form Palkia V is the card chosen for Cal here. Has the energy to attach for turn. You can, I guess, attach it to the Sobble if you want and fill up the bench. And I think that's what Cal is choosing to do here. Keep calling.
Why not? Let's go ahead and grab it. So Looks like the concealed cards grabbing the Sobble wasn't very good. Just a wasted card there, but hey, got a full bench. The one real risk here, though, we know that that's just that one Palkia V in play and a full bench. Yoshi could have a knockout lined up if the cards flow the right way.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the top of the deck. Irida for Yoshi, I believe. Maybe already had one in hand. If not, still one of the best cards in this deck to draw.
Important to note the reach for Yoshi isn't as strong as Calvin's. Of course, the damage that he gets to is pretty impressive, but just in general, needs a lot more help from cards like Radiant Greninja. Not going to have access to these individual item cards like the Cross Switcher. Just going to have to rely on the Irida to help out. So if you find a piece here, I think he did actually find the Cross Switcher. That's huge.
Insane.
Because the Irida can help out in getting the additional piece now.
I'm going to take a quick look. The second Cross Switcher is not in the prizes, so it's still available for Yoshi here.
Yeah, he's got the reach here. There's 240 damage available for a Palkia Vstar. The Irida can go ahead and grab that along with the additional Cross Switcher. And I think there's plenty of energies for the Star Portal. Well, plenty is probably not the word. There is a Wash Energy in hand and at least one in the discard.
Yeah, Wash Energy in hand, the one in the discard that was brought back with the Training Court and then concealed cards. You can retreat the one off the Greninja and the active. And with that, yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a pretty lined up KO here for Yoshi, finding that Cross Switcher and Origin Form Palkia V-Star with this Irida. And this is how a lot of these Palkia matchups really go. It's, can I go first? Get the Star Portal Cross Switcher. If I do, I'm going to be sitting pretty. And this is where you see Cal missing the second Origin Form Palkia V on his own bench.
Yep, the setup is so crucial, and we see that if that one Sobble was a Palkia V, then this is a completely different game, as Calvin would have a potential response here. And we do see that retreat up to the Kyurem V. Don't be alarmed. This is only for Cross Switcher. It's going to be the Palkia V up to the active on both players' sides. And this was just to have the opportunity now to place that Water Energy or Wash Energy wherever you want it and not have to just have it on the Radiant Greninja now.
Attaching it to the active, the V-Star comes down for Yoshi. Has the Vmax to go along with it as well. And here we're going to see that Star Portal V-Star power ability from Palkia V-Star. Going to get the energy on the active, energy on the Kyurem Vmax. And from here, you can Primate Wisdom. Why not pick at an extra card and Rotom Phone?
Yeah, especially when you start thinking about the transition from the Palkia to the Kyurem Vmax. It's going to be a nice card, but hey, 2 prizes are even better. Let's go ahead and take a knockout here on that Palkia V and really press the advantage here in game number 2 of the top 4.
Yeah, this puts Cal back at least 2 turns. You're going to need to get another Palkia in play. Hopefully that survives something like a Boss's Orders play from Yoshi next turn. And then you're going to need to get the V-Star yourself and continue things going. And this is where having the bench full of just these support Pokemon are not going to help.
There's no guarantee that your opponent doesn't just Boss's Orders the Palkia V as well. You need to find a scoop-up net and place down 2 Palkia V if you really want to feel safe.
Listen, Kyle, this is a safe space.
Not for Palkias.
Cal eyeing down that Irida is going to be able to find that Origin Form Palkia V and an item to go along with it, but most likely going to be something like that Scoop Up Net at the top of the deck, just hiding out.
Yep, seems like a good play here. Could always pick up that Drizzile, get the Sobble up into the hand, replay the Drizzile, and then work in the second Palkia V. Feels horrible to potentially be giving up so many prize cards, but this is the only real way that you get a relevant attacker out next turn.
Honestly, though, Yoshi got that another Kyurem Vmax from the prizes, so we're just going to be seeing a ton of stuff for Yoshi to do next turn. And honestly, if Yoshi finds that boss, it's going to be over. Cal's going to most likely scoop, and we're going to see game 3.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways for Yoshi to get there. I don't think we saw them just yet, No energy in the hand, I think. So maybe that will be the piece that unlocks a lot of this, as access to concealed cards, maybe some help from Oranguru could help with that extension.
Scoop Up Net and that Palkia V were the cards chosen for Cal. And while not doing much this turn, he's going to have to do his best just to set up an attacker for the turn after. Scoop Up Net can bring back that Drizzile and reuse Shady Dealings yet again. You see the hand there. Oh, Ultra Ball discarding a Vstar and a Marnie.
Yeah, we see another Drizzile here. Potentially going for another searching effect. Contemplating the cross switcher here. Yeah, this is kind of tricky. I don't know if there's a quick ball available. Oh, I do see one, so potentially could go and grab the Palkia V that way. Although we did see that the one Palkia Vstar was discarded, so at least a nod from Calvin, understanding that I don't think that I'm going to be able to evolve both of these.
Yeah. Oh, discarding the... Oh, okay. Sequencing. Oh, bench down the Sobble, but...
All right, so this is a little confusing. I don't think there wasn't a discard with the quick ball, was there?
I don't think so. I don't think the quick ball has been played yet.
Well, it's in the discard pile, so that's a little awkward.
But honestly, here, just the sequencing from Calvin, you scoop up net that Drizzile so you can reuse that Shady Dealings, but straight away bench the Sobble.
Yeah, so this may have been just a situation where the next card played was the discard effect of the quick ball, and just that being applied here. So going to miss out on getting the second benched Palkia V.
Again, this is where sequencing is so important, especially with a deck that is able to do so much with Shady Dealings. You can search your deck for any trainer card multiple times a turn. So the quick ball does find the Origin Form Palkia V, but I think the Shady Dealings was failed. And I think they're trying to clarify that now. So was it the second Palkia Vstar discarded off quick ball?
Yes, well, it was discarded off of one of the effects.
Well, but then Cal chose to discard another card with quick ball.
That's the card right there. No, with quick ball, but what did I do with the net when I evolved it? You took the quick ball. So you netted.
Looks like we're just trying to get a little bit of an understanding of how that went. Just speaks again to the importance of the sequencing, making sure that you pick up all those cards, play them in the correct order. We've seen a lot of shortcuts this week. Not necessarily any malintents, just ends up with some situations where these things occur then.
So I think it's either going to be a fail of the search from the Shady Dealings from the active, or it found the quick ball that was used here, and Ordinary Rod will be able to shuffle back those V-Star that were just discarded during this turn. But you can tell Cal's a little flustered.
Yeah, this really does put all the eggs in this one Palkia's basket now. One boss's orders, any way to really push through at this point for Yoshi, you'd have to think that that would be game sealing. And so this is going to lead to a fairly big turn. We don't see much in the hand right now for Yoshi. Does find an Irida, but we know it's only the double cross switcher in the deck, not the 4 copies.
Yeah, only having access to one other boss's orders. If there's a way to grab...
We do see the Rotom phone, I believe, happening here. So that could certainly open things up.
Luminion and the prizes. Luminion would be able to go grab the boss's orders, but...
We see the Wash energy that you could potentially grab with the Oranguru and then discard by way of the Radiant Greninja to push a little further.
That might have to be the route here, I guess. just take the turn off with the Melanie, and I say taking the turn off, but you're still going to get a knockout, go down to 3 prize cards, but that's not where you want to be. You want to be able to just shut Calvin down from even declaring an attack. You gotta love Yoshi.
Yeah, he says he's gonna just grab the card and then go back in with the surge. So yeah, I actually don't want any of those cards. I'm just gonna Irida.
With this Irida, he will be able to find a water Pokemon and an item. And now we'll just have to see how things shape up. Capacious Bucket pulled to the front.
Yeah, this is completely fine. There's no real reason to overcommit in a situation like this. Right now, if you have the reach to just get some additional energy onto the Kyurem Vmax, you have to think that that would be a way to close out on a return Palkia Vstar from Calvin. So you just take that 1 prize card, and then you'll have the answer to the 1 big attacker remaining.
And with that Irida, it finds that Kyurem V. Capacious Bucket will find those 2 water energies. Yoshi makes sure to play it out as clean as possible.
Yep, still plenty of options here. We can see the concealed cards. I believe the Melanie is still an option here, and then...
Well, Melanie got shuffled away. Irida was played.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, we will still see that there's the training courts, and you can work in the Oranguru plus Glaciated World at some point.
So the big pickup here for this turn is going to be that Hisuian Heavy Ball. Granted, you won't be able to utilize the Lumineon V next turn, but it is sticking around in the prize cards. That's the one way to search out for boss's orders. For
it was
Yoshi.
water anyways.
Oh.
Gotta believe in the heart of the cards. Wow, look at that. What a top deck. Glaciated World, of course. That amazing ability from the Kyurem Vmax. Going to accelerate and get ready for a big potential knockout on the following turn. Still haven't seen an energy attachment as well. And here is that Hisuian Heavy Ball you were speaking of.
Going to nab that Lumineon V from the prize cards. Be useful for next turn. Yoshi still has a Glaciated World available to him. Granted, you always want to do that when you know the top card is water energy.
Believe. Or throw away a boss or something.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Training Court grabs back an energy. We'll get one for the turn on that fresh Kyurem Vmax.
Yep, preparing for everything now. Going to remove the training court so that Calvin doesn't get to use it as well.
Lost City now getting rid of that Manaphy. Let's get that Lost Zone counter up. 1 for Cal.
And yeah, that's it. That's about that.
Yeah, honestly, once those Kyurem Vmax get fully powered up, it's rough to even take a prize off of those Pokemon. So even though there were 3 prizes and you can kind of take a turn or 2 and 2-hit it, that's not going to happen when Kyurem Vmax is just smacking you in the face every turn for a couple prizes.
Yeah, when Yoshi's deck sets up, you have to think that he is favored. Also, just a little slower on Calvin's side that turn, that time around. But that's why they invented Game 3, right? This is for all the marbles to get into the finals here of Peoria Regional Championships. Both these players, 36 minutes remaining on the clock, and you have to think that it is anyone's game.
Yeah, plenty of time left in this round to finish a full game. These decks are not slow decks, to say the least. Granted, a lot of decisions to make during each of these turns. But both of these players have been here before. Calvin is going to be able to go first, but that does come with a little bit of a downside. You're not going to be able to use Irida, but you do get to evolve.
Well, I think that means that we're going to be looking for everyone's favorite card, the Battle VIP Pass. That is what makes and breaks games for Palkia going first. If you can find that card, it makes a world's difference. Being able to evolve early and have a turn 2 attack and that turn 2 Drizzile potentially, ooh, it gets scary quick.
it's pretty crazy to me how Battle VIP Pass rose to prominence in this meta. Usually just a card that was found in decks like Mew Vmax, really just trying to get set up very quickly. You're able to discard those because you play 4 Ultra Ball and the like. But now it's essentially just every deck going, wow, getting 2 Pokemon on turn 1 for 1 card is insane. Why don't I run 4 of these?
Yeah, a lot of players just taking the risk. It's worth that because the reward means you're probably going to win some games. Speaking of winning games, Tord Reckliffe up game 1. So potential to see Tord Reckliffe as the opponent here. We'll see how that goes. Of course, Zach Kreckler fighting for his life now in game number 2.
Radiant Greninja hiding out in the prize cards for Yoshi there. Not the best.
Yeah, we know how big that is. Yoshi needs that card to really start getting through the deck. He doesn't have an opportunity like Cal has with all of the evolutions. But hey, if you want to evolve, you need Sobbles, and that's 2 in the prizes.
All right, we're starting things off. Game 3 for our top 4 match here in Peoria, Illinois. Kyurem V up against an Origin Form Palkia V. Cal starts off the turn with a Quick Ball, discards the Water Energy for that Radiant Greninja. And no Battle VIP Pass just yet.
And when your opponent discards the Water Energy, you think, well, there's got to be more of that coming, right? And I'm sure we will see more of that, leading into some concealed cards here. And this is once again a crucial turn to find a Sobble.
Of course, players having a good time up here on top 4.
That's a nice find. The Hisuian Heavy Ball is going to perfectly line up with one of those Sobbles there. And even if he draws into the Hisuian Heavy Ball as a prize, you could just grab another Sobble.
Yeah, why not? Double dipping.
Just prize all your Sobbles. That's how you win games, kids.
Don't do that.
Oh.
All right, well, it looks like a couple supporters down at the bottom of the prizes for Cal here. Is going to continue his turn. Energy on that Origin Form Palkia V. Oh, wow, and that was a huge heavy ball, too, finding that Sobble. Had the Drizzile in hand, but nothing else other than the Irida, so he's going to have a pretty good turn. But meanwhile, speaking of heavy balls.
Yeah, she said, anything you can do, I can do better. I can find Radiant Greninja better than you.
Again, it's going to be a little awkward that Origin Form Palkia V, and there is only a 2 of for the deck, so especially going second, you're going to have to be careful of benching that in response to your opponent's attacks.
Yeah, that's a great point. Any other benching that happens along with the Radiant Greninja, you'd have to think would be a sole Origin Form Palkia V, as you don't want to hit that magic 3rd bench space on this opening turn here. That really just lines up for an easy knockout. And sure enough, holding on to the Palkia V right there. Fantastic for Yoshi.
Quick Ball here will be able to find Yoshi another Pokemon. But again, you run the risk of having that bench being filled up.
I think he has to. There's nothing
Lumineon?
else. There's nothing else in this hand right now. It's just so slow. There's no energy. There's no real support card that you want to work in right now. So I think the Lumineon's just going to have to be the best bet, and you just hope your opponent doesn't have the reach. You only see one Sobble, so maybe this is an opportunity now where you can try to at least get your setup going and just hope that that Palkia V sticks around.
Definitely a risky play for sure, but here is that luminous sign from Lumineon V, finds the Irida. Irida will be able to find most likely the Vstar or that Vmax, depending on what Yoshi needs for next turn, and Capacious Bucket. Capacious Bucket can find some energies, and from there you can conceal cards, you can attach for turn.
Yeah, I think I like this here. Just go for the Kyurem V with an understanding that it's probably going to be enough for a knockout on the active Pokemon from this Palkia V, but have your opponent also having the reach with a Boss's Orders or Double Cross Switcher is much more unlikely. So set yourself up with 2 of those and just kind of hedge the bet a little bit that you're not going to lose access to both of your big V Pokemon.
Well, now we're going to see a concealed cards from Yoshi. It's going to be a pretty big 2 cards here to try to find some stuff.
Love the sequencing. Not benching just yet. Could find some cards to maybe help with these decisions here. Finds Wash Roxanne. Not
not really
exactly what we're looking for. It's monkey time.
Oranguru on the bench. It's Primate Wisdom, able to put a card back from your hand to draw the top card of the deck. So you just basically swap it out. Really great in combination with that Kyurem Vmax.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of players using the Oranguru with considerations to Marnie, making sure to have a nice card on the top of the deck so that you're never left with a dead hand. Could be the consideration here, maybe even that wash energy or something of that sort, but looks like the Cheryl's going to be the decision now.
This full bench is so scary on Yoshi's side of things, and looking at Cal's hand, he has everything to take the knockout on that Origin Form Palkia V. Granted, maybe now you want to target the Kyurem, but I guess that's why Yoshi got that second one.
Yes, and you like fireworks? Me too. We're going to see a lot of them, and nice full benches likely going to be for both players.
Looking at Cal's hand, does have access to like Cross Switcher and stuff like that, but bench Pokemon, I don't know if you're going to be able to.
Doesn't necessarily need it. One more Pokemon is enough to start taking knockouts on these V Pokemon. 220 going to be the magic number for so many on the opposite side. Of course, to do that, you're going to probably need the Palkia Vstar, and we see that being looked up by an Irida.
Now you have the Drizzile and Cross Switcher in hand already. So it's really going to depend on the other item here, Evolution Incense.
Yep, Training Court Drizzile and the Cross Switcher. So good cards, but in a situation like this, you want to have more cards. And maybe that leans towards something like a Capacious Bucket, something like that. Just some more draw from the Radiant Greninja.
Especially, charging up a way to either retreat or getting a scoop up net.
Well, Galvin says, hey, let's just evolve everything. That'll work. Already has an Evolution Incense in hand, but going to go for an additional one here.
Does this signal more of maybe just taking the knockout on the actives, saving those cross switchers?
This could also just be more of a defensive line if you have the hit points available from the Palkia Vstar, then you're not as concerned about being knocked out by the Kyurem Vmax. But I think that only works if we're talking about that Kyurem being benched last turn. So here's the path.
That's a big one.
That's so this means that we're looking towards that Evolution Incense being for next turn for that Inteleon, which is also a very strong play. Does maybe walk into some issues if Yoshi is able to remove that or get a Moonlight Shuriken into the mix.
All right, you got the Star Portal, 2 energy in the discard. Now that Palkia Vstar is charged up, Path to the Peak, Subspace Swell takes the knockout. Cal goes down to 4 prize cards here in top 4. Yoshi has to deal with that Path to the Peak in play before you can really get things going with that Kyurem Vmax and Radiant Greninja. Does have 3 stadiums in the list to bump it.
Yeah, what a position to be in currently when you get to take that big knockout early on. You didn't have to fill your bench. You get to hold on to some of those resources, have that Inteleon for the following turn, and now you're really just looking to dodge a big turn here for Yoshi. And we know that he is holding on to a couple nice cards, but is it enough to potentially work in a knockout here?
It doesn't look like it, Kyle. Not having access to abilities for that Kyurem or the Greninja. Gonna have to rely on this Primate Wisdom off the top. Something like an Irida. Still doesn't do it. Not actually able to get a stadium from there, so it really just has to be a stadium. And
there's the water energy. That would have been nice with glaciated world if we ever were able to use some of these abilities.
Do we Ultra Ball for another Rangaroo?
We're pushing it, aren't we?
Kyurem Vmax on to the active. But that path to the peak is proving its worth yet again for Cal here. Able to seal up game 1 with it, and now looking to do the same in game 3.
Yeah, isn't that something? Just one stadium able to really provide such an impact here. Basically shutting down everything that Yoshi wants to do, and looks like that's just going to be the turn.
Oh no. All right. Back to Cal here. Has that Evolution Incense from the turn prior. Also has the Irida in hand.
Yeah, this is where you start thinking about just having a secondary attacker potentially. Can you work in the cross switcher to target down that Palkia V and then close out on Luminion on the following turn?
The road map is laid out for Cal here to try to make it into Masters Finals.
Yeah, we do see that cross switcher. Big card there. And of course, we know the Evolution Incense already in hand, so that Inteleon could be found if Calvin needs the reach this turn.
Evolution Incense now will find that Inteleon. Shady Dealings allows Cal to search for 2 more trainer cards, and honestly, when you have access to your entire deck like this, it has to feel daunting sitting across the table from it with Yoshi.
Yep, looks like potential for that Capacious Bucket, just getting an additional energy onto the Palkia V would be ideal, and lining up a boss's orders once more.
Now just doing some quick math here. I believe, what? 1 more bench Pokemon will be able to take the knockout.
Yep, we're looking at 200 right now.
And we know Cal already has that Sobble in hand. It's only a matter of time. Now, do you have an easy way to retreat? I'm probably just going to attach that Sobble and retreat it. Or the Greninja, you know, anyone with 1 retreat cost.
Yep, seems fine to me. And we are going to see that Palkia Vstar doing work one more time here, targeting down the single origin form Palkia V. And that is crucial, as Yoshi's not going to have access to that V-Star, at least on this turn now. And I mean, there's a lot that needs to be asked of this Roxanne right now. Path to the peak certainly needs to be bumped here. A choice belt would be ideal, as you could potentially work in the knockout. And you need Calvin to not see anything that gets towards a Drizzile or an Irida.
Also needing a water on the top of the deck after that Path to the Peak is bumped.
Believe in the monkey.
Yeah, Primate Wisdom can do that for Yoshi here. And like you said, big 6 cards here. And Cal getting that Sobble down is pretty heads-up playing. At least have an open spot for a Drizzile in case it's drawn.
Yep, also lined up the math pretty well to take a knockout. That's value. 6 cards here going to be pretty crucial. Obviously, the big one here is, can we get that stadium bumped? We do see the Lost City. Ooh. Don't see anything else really to help. The double Rangaroo might make an impact. If you can find a card off the top that gets you at least an energy, then you can
work. It has to be like Primate Wisdom into Capacious Bucket.
Drop the second one, and yeah, that would help out.
Now, granted, you do have Ultra Ball to find Crobat V to continue to draw some cards, but Yoshi playing it well here, not playing that stadium just yet. Get as much information as you can as possible.
And pulling on a card that could be discarded or played just to get it out of the hand. Certainly have to be thinking about a Crobat in a situation like this. You already have the Luminion V down, so it doesn't really matter necessarily. That boss's orders would likely be closing out a game either way. And there are some big cards still left to be found here, looking for the energy and the choice belt here to deal 300 damage.
I think Yoshi just thinking about if saving this Melanie over the cross switcher is worth it, but it's a tough choice. You know there's one back in the deck, I believe. And yeah, here is that Ultra Ball going to find Crobat V. And as long as Yoshi doesn't bench it before playing that Lost City, we'll see some more cards drawn here.
Don't do it. Give us the Lost City. Yeah, Dark Asset going to be the ability relied on here to keep Yoshi in this game. Just showing the card here, saying I am grabbing this with Ultra Ball.
A little talk between the judges here. Okay, it looks like it was just some insufficient shuffling for Yoshi here. Now getting that deck fully shuffled up.
Yep, plenty of time here in game number 3. Take an extra second, get a couple extra riffles in there. Assuming that'll just be a warning. We'll get to continue on with our play here. Going to be looking towards a big ability here off this Crobat V. Needing a lot of help. Has the monkeys to back it up.
Lost City in hand to go along with it.
Yoshi's Table Talk is top tier. At least that will come of this game no matter what.
Lost City, Oranguru, Crobat, Dark Asset for 5 cards. Gonna need to find a few energy here. Choice Belt would help out a lot.
Yep. We'll see what is found here. I don't even see it.
No
Water
energy at all.
That is disgusting when you think about the Oranguru already being used. There's one more that could lead to finding it off of the something off the Primate Wisdom, but it's starting to get scary.
At what point do you just Glaciated World the top card randomly?
I'm about to do it now.
Rotom Phone.
Rotom Phone.
Okay.
But still, you need to go find a water energy or a wash energy, and then find 2 nice cards off of the Radiant Greninja, I suppose.
All right. Water energy off the top. No. And with that, Yoshi's not going to be able to attack this turn with that Kyurem Vmax. Already having attached for the turn before all of this stuff happened.
Yep, the scoop up net being thought about.
And not taking the knockout on Cal's Origin Form Palkia Vstar. That Roxanne, it's usually a lie, Kyle. And I'm not lying when I tell you there's Irida in hand for Cal.
Oh, yeah, that's a good card.
Yeah, that's a card that searches for a Drizzile Cross Switcher. And from there, it should be pretty easy. I guess you're going to need to find a way to retreat.
Well, with 3 retreat cost, not going anywhere, going to just pass the turnover. We see that Calvin does have that Irida, going to search the deck now, trying to find a potential closeout knockout in this top 4. Don't see the energies or anything to go along with that. So potentially going to have to work in the scoop up net or something of that sort to make that happen.
Well, Calvin has time here. Yoshi has not taken a prize yet this game. You have 2 prizes left. You can go ahead and grab that Origin Form Palkia Vstar, grab the scoop up net, reset your Inteleon, and with Drizzile, you can go and grab a Capacious Bucket, get an energy on that Vstar. So now both of them are powered up, and you can even conceal cards if you want. And then from there, you have another Irida. You have that Inteleon to get those cross switchers for next turn and seal the game up. Yoshi's already used that Roxanne. Taking a look through, It is just that one of Roxanne. I guess, yeah, no Marnie to speak of, so no real way to disrupt the hand. And with that, it's pretty much checkmate position for Cal here.
That's the word that was going to the tip of my tongue as well. Dealing max damage here with the 260 available from Subspace Swell. Going to put a hurtin' onto that Kyurem Vmax, and Yoshi with one of the worst benches imaginable in terms of attacking power. Going to have to try to get the job done.
Now, we knew about that scoop up net on top of the deck. And honestly, just with the way these cards have been drawn in sequence for Yoshi, unfortunate past couple of turns.
Safe to say, we see the Palkia Vstar being added to the hand. And there's another hand. We are going to see the extension. Yoshi with the concession to Calvin Connor, who's going to be moving on to the finals here in the